welcome to episode 19 of Northern Lights, the online chat show which focuses on football in the north and northeast of Scotland. My name is Martin Johnston, and each week I'm joined by our resident journalist and fellow Rothisloon, Dave Edwards. Also joining Dave and I each week are three well-known names from North football, both from the past and the present. Just a few guys reminiscing about the good old days and from time to time giving a distanced opinion on the modern game. A bit like Soccer AM meets the Antiques Roadshow. Our first guest is a former Rangers youth player who went on to play for a number of Highland League clubs. Levi Stevens spent 2 seasons at Ibrox before he joined Clydebank in 1992. After only 1 season, Levi then moved to Montrose and spent 3 seasons with the Gable Endies before returning to Clydebank. Levi then played with Aberdeen junior side Bonaccord before having spells with Lossiemouth and Keith before heading down under in 1998 with Sutherland Sharks. Over the next 2 seasons, Levi split his time with Buckie Thistle and Australia before returning to Scotland in 2001 with Devonvale. Levi spent 3 seasons at Princess Royal Park before joining Huntly in 2004, before seeing out his playing career with Banks OD. Welcome to the show, Levi Stevens.
Welcome. Thank you very much for having me tonight or this evening. How are you doing, guys? You all right?
Good, fine, Levi. Super, pal. How you doing, Levi?
You're looking great. You haven't changed.
Well, we're running out of razors, so.
There's obviously a national shortage.
Gillette.
Levi, lovely to see you, pal.
Thank you.
Tell me, the only other Clydebank player I know, because I know to know him, is Charlie Brown. Was Charlie around about the same time as you or at Clydebank?
I think I missed him. Just missed him.
Just missed Charlie.
Yeah, I was. I joined December. It was December.
Right. The Steedman brothers there, were they?
Yeah.
Steedman brothers?
Yeah, Jack Steedman was the chairman.
Obviously,
His son was being groomed to take over. But unfortunately, that never happened.
Yeah.
But no, I did know Charlie Brown briefly. I knew his name. I'm pretty sure we did have a few training sessions.
Yeah.
The football, skinny football as well, you can call them football. Yeah. They didn't have any leather on.
Yeah.
But no, it was quite an experience, that.
Yeah. The nice little ground, Copeland Park. I was there a few times.
The crowd are really close. That's a good thing. The pitch was a bit bog, but there was no training facilities. It was quite sparse, really. But it was a good club to be at. The guys were obviously really good. It was a good laugh, plus you're getting paid for it, something you enjoy, so it did help.
Martin wants to come in here. Martin, you put your hand up. Over to you.
I just wanted to say, of course, there was another former Clydebank player who had quite a Highland League career, and he played for Rothes and Devonvale. I think he played for Inverurie Locos, maybe in the juniors, and that's Joe Mccarlen.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, heard of Joe, yes.
Joe, I think...
Yeah, I'm too young for that, you know what I mean?
I think Joe Mccarlen holds a record. At one time, he had scored in every senior ground in Scotland at one time.
That's quite a record. Quite a record. But Levi's also got a great record. Levi, tell us about Come Dine With Me.
That was the wife's fault. It's nothing to do with me. I just got roped in. It was funny. We're watching the telly, the advertisement, looking for people to star in it. And Hannah says, "You fancy doing it?" And I go, "Well, we can give it a go." But the actual process of getting on the show is like really arduous. It's really tough. You get interviewed over the phone, interviewed individually. Then they come up and do like there's a questionnaire you need to fill in. And then if you pass that, they come up and do like in front of the camera, one with singular and then couples. It was a really good experience. I would recommend anybody to go on it. But have a shave before you do.
I'll bet. And did you make your entrance through a cloud of smoke, Levi, or is that a different show?
That was, I was just two things, aye.
Well, that's got to be a first.
Good night, Matthew. I'm going to be Levi Stevens.
Brilliant, Levi. We'll speak to you much more in a minute. Thanks for that, buddy.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Our second guest enjoys a legendary status at Huntly FC, where he spent almost 16 seasons on and off as a player and coach. A native of Aberdeen, Eddie Copeland joined Arbroath as a youngster, and that's where he spent 2 seasons before he joined Peterhead in 1980. After 2 seasons with the Blue Toon, Eddie made the move to Montrose, where he endured a serious leg break in his second season. Eddie joined Rothes in 1984 as he worked to regain his strength, and where he quickly returned to form. With a number of clubs showing interest in Eddie in the summer of 1985, Rothes were keen to retain his services, and they would be one of 3 clubs to gain his signature on a contract all on the same day. However, Forbes Shan's courier managed to get Eddie's contract to Park Gardens before the other clubs, resulting in Eddie spending a trophy-laden 14 seasons as a player at Christie Park. In 1999, Eddie returned to his first Highland League club, Peterhead, who were making their swan song season before stepping up to the Scottish League. The following season, Eddie joined Cove Rangers before returning to Huntly as player assistant manager, and he ended his playing career with Inverurie Locos in season 2003-2004. Welcome to Northern Lights, my old friend, Eddie Copeland.
Thanks, Martin.
Good to see you, Eddie. You look as if you could still play.
I still do a bit of working out, but could I play? No. I did last year. I played in one of the Hunters Legends games at Turriff last year, and I played about an hour, so I coped, but not very well on the Monday.
I'm sure.
Good evening, Eddie. Lovely to see you, pal.
And yourselves.
Now, the fastest carpet fitter in the north. And you taught our young lad Fraser to lay carpets. That's your trade. You've been doing it a long time, Eddie.
Yeah. Too long.
Too long. It takes its toll on the knees, I know that.
Takes its toll on your whole body, but no, I'm coping. I'm coping so far.
Yeah, good man. Now, we're going to touch later on in those glory years at Christie Park, and they were good years. It was a wonderful team, and one of the best teams ever in Highland League football, that Huntly team.
It was a fantastic team, but I've always said that I didn't think it had the best players in the league. I think they got the mix right, and I think that's the important thing. It's every department we knew their job and they were good at it, and I think we were lucky in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. And a chairman who knew where he wanted the club to go in Forbes Shan.
Clever man, very clever man. No, the thing about Forbes is he had a vision back then. Well, a lot of people think that I won this willy-nilly and that willy-nilly. I was at Huntly a good lot of years before I won a trophy, you know. So it was a sort of it was a build-up. He built it over a few years, but fantastic job and fantastic times.
Later on, we'll maybe touch on a fabulous evening that I was part of in a posh hotel in Dunblane after you beat Dumbarton.
Wow, that was some weekend.
It wasn't just, Eddie. We'll speak about that later, but for the moment, Eddie, delighted to have you on the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
Our third and final guest has kindly stepped in as a substitute after quite a late call-off this evening. Dennis Bridgeford is actually a native of Aberdeenshire, but has been farming in Easter Ross now for over 40 years. Former Highland League linesman, Dennis joined the Brora Rangers committee when he hung up his flag, and he eventually became chairman of the Dudgeon Park Club. Dennis also had a short sabbatical with Mccarlen before returning to the Catholics, and during his tenure with both clubs, he also held the position of president of the Scottish Highland Football League. We're delighted that Dennis has managed to pass a late fitness test to be with us tonight. Welcome, another old friend, Dennis Bridgeford.
Yeah. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I correct you there? I never actually was chairman of Brora. I was sort of director of football type of operation. but I never rose to the ranks of chairman. So,
as Mike Tremlett once said, Dennis, never let the truth get in the way of a reporter.
I was saying, but just to make it corrected, I was never chairman. My first time round at Brora, John Young was the chairman. And,
yes, of course. Yeah.
John was a good guy and sort of held the club together when they didn't have any money, and in fact, no money.
Can you tell me, Dennis, actually, before I pass you out to Dave, has you know, one of the last time I saw John was when Brora won the league title for the first time. Has he had his grin removed yet, or is he still smiling for you?
No, I was absolutely, you know, I wasn't there when they won the first title, for various reasons. But I was actually delighted for not only for John, but for Kevin and Deirdre Mackay, because you know, I've gone on record many times saying the club and people like Sheena Manson and Bill Valentine, the club would never have survived. When I went there, when I stopped refereeing, the club was in debt, and you know, we were keeping the thing going. But John and Kevin and Deirdre, as I said, deserved that success. Really did.
Dennis, lovely to see you, pal.
How you doing, Dave? Good to see you.
Dennis. Now, you've been involved in Highland League football an awful long time, firstly as a linesman, and then, as you say, in all your various guises with Brora and Clark. What is so special about Highland League football? Because it is a big family. There's a lot of friends been made over the years, a lot of lifelong friends been made. What's your feeling about Highland League football?
I think Highland League football's in a tremendous place at the moment. There's some very good teams. I think the Brora team that just won the league was probably as good a team all round. You know, Eddie mentioned it there, that the Huntly team, and I just remember the Huntly team was a good team. But if you were picking a Highland League select today, you would struggle not to fill it with Brora players. But I would say team spirit. You go into any boardroom in a Highland League and you're made very welcome. And I've been at one or two Scottish League teams, and one in particular, maybe the fact that we beat them in a Scottish Cup tie after they were counting the takings they would make if they went to the next round. We gave them a bit of a cuffing. And you don't see that camaraderie, I don't think, in the Scottish League. But in saying that, I think Brora fancies a crack at the Scottish League. But maybe we'll just have to adapt.
Yeah.
But
we'll touch on that later in the evening.
Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Dennis, it's a delight you've stepped in as a last-minute substitute, and I'm sure you'll enjoy being in the park with these two legends of Highland League football, Levi and Eddie.
Thank you.
How you doing?
So how's tricks this week, Dave? Sunday nights are maybe not quite so popular for watching a show.
Well, I think we've got less time to work out the figures, but last Saturday's already past 300, which is pretty good. I
think maybe last weekend might be the exception to the rule in respect that, in no disrespect to our guests tonight. I took probably an extra couple of hours to edit the show after last week.
Yes, there was a bit of editing to do, I'm sure. There was one or two bits that maybe were a wee bit close to the bone.
Aye, and there was, and the viewers quite quickly picked up on the bits that weren't edited. I've had a few text messages saying, "Do you realise he said that?" And I went, "Oh, I forgot about that. I should have maybe pulled that out as well." But hey, it is what it is. We would remind everybody that all the views on this show are of the individual people. And not of the programme, and certainly not of the hosts. Let's get that out there straight away. Have you any shout-outs this week, Dave? I'll maybe give you a kick-start. The question was asked about Gordon Uni. We were speaking about Gordon Uni playing football at a ripe old age the other week here at Rothes. And I got a text or a tweet saying that Gordon Uni was playing football last year at the ripe old age of 60. I don't know if you remember, Gordon Uni and Derek Thompson both guested for Rothes at Wick Academy a couple of years ago. I think they were very close to not only having a team in the park, but not having a team off the park either.
Right.
And they guested, and it made the national headlines because between the two of them, they were over 100 years. Gordon would appear, up until recent times, has still been playing football, and good on him.
Brilliant. Brilliant. A couple of shout outs we've got. We've got with correspondence from Mervyn Stanley, who thought the programme was great last week, especially Mr. Teasdale's contribution. And he says there was sure was a lot that was maybe edited out that was never talked about, and he was right in that. Martin Stewart, our old pal from Huntly, even he admitted he couldn't get the heat scratcher last week. It stumped him, so that's the first time Martin's been stumped. And of course, Paul Darcy, as usual, had a little comment about the show as well. He thoroughly enjoyed it as well.
Yep. That's Mervyn Stanley's a name, blast of the pastor, right? As I used to know him, Merv the Swerve.
Merv the Swerve. Worked with him at P&J. He's an avid listener to the programme anyway.
Great to know, Merv, that you're watching the show on a Sunday night. Yeah, you referred to your heat scratcher. It was a tough one for the punters, do you think?
It was a tough one. I thought somebody in Murray might have got it because it was a former player. He was a fullback and he played in the old First Division for two top teams. He actually picked up one Scottish League cap. He never made it to the international team, but he picked up a Scottish League cap, and he was a coach and a player manager for two Murray clubs. That was the question. Who was the player? Who were the two clubs? And what was the name of his two sons who also went on to play Highland League football? Martin, you probably know the answer to this one.
Well, I would say that this individual probably played European football with one of his clubs.
He did.
In the old First Division. So I know exactly who you're talking about. Can I name him?
Name him. You go for it.
I'm thinking it's Jimmy Richmond.
Jimmy Richmond, former Lossiemouth player manager, former Rothes player manager, ex-St Johnstone, ex-Kilmarnock. Jimmy sadly passed away last November. Was it November or August? Passed away last year anyway, at the age of 80.
I did note that at the time, Kilmarnock put a superb tribute up on their website to Jim. He was obviously well thought of down there, and he was a bit of a character.
Jim was a character. He was a nice man. And I was a manager at Rothes when I was a kid, and his sons, Michael and James, both went on to play Highland League football. I think for Lossiemouth, and I think Michael played for Elgin City also.
Certainly, Mike played junior football from my time when I was refereeing.
Yeah,
a great story, but this is not the appropriate show for it, unfortunately. Dave, do you have an on this day for us?
I do have an on this day, and it's on this day 1997. I don't know who you guys were playing for at that time. 1997. You might have been the team lineup here, maybe especially Eddie. I've got the Highland League results that day. There was one qualifying cup game that day. A late Golspie equaliser got them a draw at King James V Park or James VI Park at Golspie. Got them a late draw against Forest Mechanics in the first round. In the Highland League that day, Mike Beattie scored a double as Cove Rangers beat Wick Academy 4-2 at Harmsworth Park. The Broch went to Grant Street Park and came away with a 5-2 win against Clacknacudden. Brora Rangers, Dennis, you'll be happy to know, beat Devon Vale 2-0 at Princess Royal Park. Keith beat Lossiemouth 4-1 at Kynoch Park. Elgin City beat Fort William 5-2 at Borough Briggs. Peterhead beat Buckie Thistle 1-0 at Buckie. And Nairn County sadly beat Rothes 4-2 at McKessick Park. When they playing that day, Eddie, you must have had a day off.
I must have been suspended again.
Nay, you, Eddie, surely. Surely not.
Well, Martin Kane's about
that. Near 97, I wouldn't have, that's for sure. Well, no, sorry, I beg your pardon, 94, I would have been refereeing in them days.
Yeah.
I see there's a wee note here saying at the Golspie Sutherland Forest game, the Golspie's goal was a mile offsides and the farmer on the line missed the flag. Right.
If you do your research properly, you'll discover that Highland League linesmen weren't allowed to do the qualifying.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown gave
and likewise, Highland League referees didn't get games that day either. That's normally the day when we arranged the shopping trip to Aberdeen.
And you come, Levi.
I've got a good story about a certain referee. When I was playing a match and I'd made a tackle, and he said, "Right, see you one more of them, and I'm going to book you for a gentleman's." So obviously a minute later, I've done it again. And he's went, right, you, come in here, Levi, stand here, get over here. But he goes, what's your name? I'm like, you just said my name. Don't get funny, Mr. Stephen. What's your name? It's Levi Stevens. Right, I'm booking you for ungently conduct and all that, son. And you're in the stand. Okay, there.
You see, Martin, you see that game that Nairn County beat Rothes 4-2? The referee that day is an avid watcher of the programme, a certain John Campbell.
Brilliant.
How he didn't organise a couple of penalties for Rothes that day, I don't know. But John was the referee that day at McKissick Park.
And he's got the hard neck to stay in Rothes now as well. Yeah?
Does he?
He stays
I'll remind him of that.
He stays next to Bob Williamson's. I maybe shouldn't be saying this on air, Furry Vides. Maybe I should just stop there because there might be a few folk with the chop in his door. He stays in the high street. He stays in the high street in Rothes. If I say to you, Dave, he bides in Dennis Malcolm's house. There you go.
What Kane Party is, yes.
Right, so Kane Party, if I you do, John, no hiding place.
Dave, can I butt in a wee minute?
Go for it, Eddie.
My 499th game for Huntly, Martin sent me off for a totally clean 50-50 tackle on Levi, and I thought Levi was dead because I was going, what, I'll get him an ambulance, and I got sent off for a great 50-50 tackle by Mr.
Absolutely great. What a disgrace.
At Bucket.
Yeah, there's nothing like sending off a pal.
Aye, I was a big build-up for my 500th game this Saturday, and I missed it because Levi was shot.
We digress, and Dennis, you'll have loads of these as well. But I once refereed a welfare game at Rothes, or an amateur game at Rothes, and they were playing an Elgin team, and this guy was going to get cautioned. I can't remember what it was for, and I says, "What's your name?" And they were like, he says, "Mickey Moose." And I says, "Okay, I'll give you one more chance. What's your name?" And we're quite close to touchline. I says, "You should tell him to tell me what his name is." Of course, they were having nothing on it. So I said, "What's your name?" He went, "Mickey Moose." I said, "Right." So I wrote in my book, and I says, "Right, Mr. Mouse, I'm sending you off the field of play for participating in the game and not being in the team lines." I'll tell you, I was sweating until half-time because I reckon what I was going to do if I would went in at half-time and there was somebody called Michael Mouse playing. I can only assume that the league management committee would frowned upon his attempt at humour. Dennis, Levi, we're going to touch on, first of all, your early years in football. Now, you don't come from a football pedigree. Would that be right in saying?
That would be correct, yes. My mother, there's no person in my family who's ever sort of played football. My late father, Jim, he played for Aberdeen Select, but that was the closest he ever got. But obviously he was non-existent as I was growing up. But my mum said that it was because of her that I got all my footballing ability, because she supported Man United and she loved George best. I don't know where that comes from. But no, I was. It's really weird because I'm a left footer but right-handed, which is quite unusual. Normally it's lefty, right. But I never actually started playing football till I was 8, so I was quite a late starter. And my mum never let me watch Match of the Day, so that was another bummer. But I actually started off at Torrey Aztecs with a guy who used to drive about in a yellow van, but obviously the less said about him the better. Then obviously I played Champion Street. Just there's photographs of me looking out a bit tubby wearing an Aberdeen kit, but obviously I don't know if Photoshop was available back then, but it looks like that to me.
I said there's some famous photos of famous players scoring some fantastic goals for Aberdeen, and they looked a bit tubby as well. So,
thank you. I appreciate that. But just I went. Obviously, I'm like 8-year-old, and I played till under 11s. So I was playing against guys 2-3 years older than myself. And obviously, I played with Paul Bridgeford. You know him at ex-Devonville, Aberdeen. Getting really good player. And then obviously D-side Villa came along, under 12s, with Cecil Singer and George Duncan.
Yep.
And then obviously, basically from age 12 to 16, we basically won everything. The Scottish Amateur, Juvenile Cup, the league, obviously. But I had really enjoyed my time because there's some good players, Colin McDonald, getting left wing I played with them. There was a lot of good players there. Obviously, a lot of them went on to play Highland League.
Yep. School football?
Unfortunately, Harlow Academy didn't have a football team.
Wow.
Because it was around about the time they had the strikes, so they weren't willing to put the time in with it. So that was a bit of a bummer. But in saying that, I was playing like 4 games a week. You're playing like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning, Sunday morning. So it's quite a hectic schedule.
This is something we've spoken about with quite a few guests in respect that modern day, it's frowned upon youngsters playing too many games. We've had Paul Lawson talking about his nephew, I think, was told that he wasn't getting a game because he'd had a hard training session a couple of nights before. And the general consensus, certainly with the ex-players on this show, is that, play as much football as you can when you can. I was speaking about Derek Thompson, who I went to school with at Speyside High, and he'd play for school, high school in the morning and go and play for Bucky Thistle as a 15-year-old in the afternoon.
Yeah, I just think there's too much pressure on kids. Because I was asking about this last week when I coached. Obviously, my son started to play now. And I was saying to him, when I analysed when I was younger, I never really got coached until I was probably 12, 13, when I started to go to professional clubs, for trials and stuff. So, there's clubs signing kids up 8. And that's just ridiculous. It's like, let kids be kids. I mean, by the time you get to 12, you'll know if you've got a feeling whether you want to be a footballer or not. So why not wait till they're 12-year-old and then teach them good habits? Because they're putting so much pressure on youngsters today. It's like so many of them are lost before they're 11, 12. And obviously you get the odd parents who can be a bit pushy. And that's obviously not helping the situation. But there's that much money going around, it obviously goes to pressure. But I think you should just let kids be kids. And then when it gets to 12, then okay, we'll see who's got a bit and who hasn't.
Yep.
I think Levi that the clubs they're letting play school football, and school football is the best days of your life.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. That's you're right. But they put up all these rules, it's like, because my philosophy was, don't sign with anybody until you're 16.
If you're good enough, they'll sign you.
Yeah, exactly. Have experience with different coaches around the country. Enjoy it. Okay, don't take it for granted. But now there's this emphasis on, we sign you 8, you can't go anywhere else, and that's you. And if like in all aspects of football, if a manager doesn't like you or a coach doesn't like you, doesn't matter how it doesn't matter what you do. That's it. You're out.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. You said you didn't start getting coaching until you started going to trials. Name some of the clubs that were taking a look at you as a youngster then, Levi.
Well, it was when it exploded. It was Leeside Villa against Mill United down in Glasgow for the Scottish under-13, Scottish Amateur, Scottish Cup. I think Leeside were the first team from Aberdeen area to win this particular Scottish Cup. I know that's different, associations and stuff. But after that game, you started getting calls. Basically, it was Nottingham Forest. They showed a huge interest to begin with. And obviously, you've got your Chelseas, your Man Cities, Celtic, Dun United, Aberdeen, obviously the home team club, Dundee. It just got ridiculous. Because obviously, clubs were wanting you to go down during the summer holidays. But if you made a commitment to a club, because I never signed an S form, because a lot of the Scottish guys they could sign an S form at 14 with a Scottish club, but they couldn't sign a form for an English club till they were 16. Likewise, English clubs couldn't touch Scottish players. So if you signed for, say, Dundee at 14, that was you. From 14 to 16, that was you. You couldn't go anywhere. You had to go to their training. But I was wary about keeping my options open. But it was like, I think the list was eventually 26 professional clubs. Like every big club in Scotland, England, even Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, they got in touch. But it was just getting ridiculous. So I had to like narrow it down to say 4 or 5 clubs. So you had Rangers, Aberdeen, Nottingham Forest, Liverpool. Who was the other team? Dundee United. I was with them a lot as well. Because it was a lot of pressure. And obviously, because I never had a father figure, I had to sort of make my decisions on my own, which was pretty difficult. But
and leading up to making the decision to choose a club, Levi, what was your thought process at the time? Because I suppose it's difficult not to be overawed by the whole, the size of the club. We speak about it quite a bit in Peterhead, that we got a lot of criticism for, young players. They show any talent in Peterhead. Generally, Peterhead will be interested, and Aberdeen will be interested. And we refer to it, not to put our term as a phrase. Aberdeen have got a bigger badge, and we're never going to win that particular battle. The best we can get is perhaps maybe once they've been at Aberdeen for a couple of years, and if Aberdeen feel that they didn't make the cut, that they're going to come to us in the way back as they try to hold on to a career. But what was your thought process at the time as to making that decision to go to Ibrox ultimately?
Well, you're going to get an exclusive here. I cut it down. I spoke to Aberdeen. My granddad went to Pretoria with me. I met Jockey Scott. It wasn't a good meeting. I don't know if I can say what he said. Can I?
Give it a bash. I can always edit. You can say it. We can we can replay it again a second time.
Well, basically, what he said was, because people think I'm a Rangers fan, but I'm an Aberdeen fan. I've always supported my home team.
Just be cautious. That's what I'm saying. Just be cautious.
Well, basically, Jockey Scott's in the office, and it's not even in the main office. He's got a beanie on. He's got his legs up on the desk, right? He's walked in. He's not even had the courtesy to stand up, take a hand. He basically said, sit down. I've sat down with my granddad. He said, Aberdeen, we don't give sign-on fees. Like, that's fair enough. But bearing in mind, I've got the choice of the whole of the UK. Throwing money. Okay, it's not about the money, but, you know what I mean? He just said, we're not getting a sign-on fee. Basically, all the other players are on YTS, $37.50 a week. But we'll give you a wage of $180 a week. You take it or leave it, basically he said. So take it or leave it. You're an Aberdeen boy. Okay, you should be signing for your local club. Again, that's it. That's basically it. So I'm like, well, okay then. So we walked out. My granddad's actually in tears. See, he obviously a fan of Aberdeen as well, and he just couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe his attitude. But when I was 15, I went down to the Forest, and it was Craig Levine's testimonial at Tynecastle. His testimonial was against Nottingham Forest. So I went up in the team bus, the Nottingham Forest team bus, at 15. And just before the game, Alan Hills, who was close to Cloughie, took me aside and he says, Cloughie is going to play you tonight in the testimonial. I'm like, really? He goes, yeah. But I've advised Cloughie not to do it, because if you play for us, if you play for Forest at 15, the first team, you'll arouse suspicion and we'll get into trouble. So I go, okay, fair enough. Then on the way back in the bus, Alan Hill said, the boss wants to speak to you. It's like, Brian Clough. Put myself, he was like that with everyone. And he's like, sit down, young man. I'm like, yeah, Clough, yeah. He goes, did you go to Liverpool? I goes, yeah. He goes, I don't want you ever to go to Liverpool again. I'm like, no. I'm not going to go back here. And he goes, can you speak my way? He just said, look, I want your signature on my desk tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay. And then obviously we got off the bus. Alan Hill said, right, Cloughie, the gaffers, the boss has said, you need to have your signature on. So I phoned my mum, said, look, Cloughie wants me to sign now. Don't worry about the money. The money was never discussed. It was a bad habit of mine. Money was never discussed. and I signed it. And then a couple of weeks later, I had to go down. But I went home, came back, and I went to the school. They wanted me to do my last year of schooling in England. But 2 weeks before I was due to leave, I changed my mind. And I don't know why. Because I used to love going on trips. Okay, if you ask Eddie and that, if you go away like pre-season trips, you don't miss home. You're young, you're like, can't wait to get play, train, have a few shandies and stuff. But I just changed my mind, and then obviously Rangers came in and they offered me a contract as well. Then Liverpool are offering you a 4-year contract, dog leash. like then obviously I got a phone call from the manager of Rangers asking to speak to me, and I said, I didn't believe who it was.
Who was the manager at that time, Levi?
Mr. Souness, Graham Souness. The phone rang. Obviously, I'm in Torry. The phone rang, and I've answered it. He's like, "Hello, is that Levi?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can I speak to your mum?" I'm like, "Yeah." Who is it? He goes, "Graham Souness." I'm like, "Aye, right." Piss off. He goes, No. I want to speak to your mum. I'm like, "Mum, this boy thinks he's Graham Souness." I was like, faz it. And then she ended up doing the phone for an hour, kid. He's like speaking about why I should go down, sign for them and stuff like that. But no. Basically, I've rattled it down to 3 clubs. Aberdeen, obviously, they didn't help matters, and I was going to go to Forest, but I actually signed for Forest, which is a no-no. If I go out, it'd be serious. Well, back then, it'd be serious repercussions. But it turned out I got three offers because they were obviously fighting off each other. Forest and I was saying to Forest, Rangers have offered me this. Forest like, we'll offer you that. And they just silly money. Just ridiculous at the time. So obviously I decided to sign for Rangers. So it didn't go down too well with people up in Aberdeen, but there you go.
And who were some of your teammates at that point when you went down to Ibrox?
The teammates got Sandy Robertson, Elvis, Stephen Presley, Neil Murray, Charlie, the late David Hagan, who sadly passed this year. Yeah. What was I called? John Morrow, who's an Irish winger. He was different class. Who else? Did you know? I'm trying to think now.
Characters, Levi. Who are the characters? I'm sure you must have a couple of training ground stories for us.
There is one involving Mr. Sandy Robertson. That's maybe a bit rude though.
Oh, fire on. We'll tell folk, if you think it's too rude, folks, and it's 10 to 9, just go along, make a cup of tea and then switch us back on again at 9 o'clock and we're past the watershed.
Oh, it's a time when they had they were doing the interior of Rangers, they were rebuilding it. They're putting on the glass circles at the end of the main stand.
Yep.
Right, so we had the porter cabins. Right, so you got changed the porter cabins. We couldn't use the changing rooms. But I'm in one of these porter cabins, and Sandy Robertson's walked in, and I'm like, he's walked in really worried. Again, like, that's Sandy. Again, what is it? What's wrong with you? He's all, Levi. I was out in the last night. Took a girl back to my house. Again, I don't know if I want to tell you this. Again, I'm like, no, come on, Sandy. Do you promise you won't tell anyone? I goes, hi, Sandy, you're kind of secret safe with me, pal. Again, that would have been. He goes, well, I was again in the throes of lovemaking, and she was on top, and then she put my legs on my shoulders. I'm like, what? Your legs? Aye, my knees. She put my knees on my shoulders. I'm like, you know what happened then? She goes, well, she licked my bum again. I'm like, licked your bum? What do you mean? Aye, she actually licked my bum. I'm like, I'm having a laugh. He goes, no. He goes, but the thing is, Levi, I really enjoyed it. You think I'm gay? I'm like, of course you're naked. If that's what you like, you like that, Ken. He's not telling any of the boys though. He's Sandy, you're secretly safe with me, pal. No problem. Went off, and half an hour later, I went in, and the boys came to another porter cabin. Right, boys, you wait till listen to this. And he's walked in, he's like, you bastard, you Who's to me? I never said that. So that was that, Ken. This is the time when Sandy we used to get paid weekly. On a Thursday, and Sandy be skint by Tuesday. Because he bought a flat in Edinburgh. And he was like, oh my God, this is get carryouts and everything. One year he turned up for pre-season, right? I swear to God. Because we got weighed the last day we left, then we had a holiday, then we got weighed again when we came back. So this year I came back a pound lighter. Okay, really good, getting a pound lighter. Because for every pound you're over, you got to find 100 quid. So I'm walking down the corridor and there's this guy walking towards us, going like, what, a two-sort of car? I'm like, holy. I'm like, Sandy, what have you done? He goes, what? I goes, what have you been doing? He goes, what's wrong, like? He goes, think I'm fat. I goes, honestly, like, I think you're fat. Take a look at your face, man. He goes, oh, no, it's all right. Do you think I'm fat? He goes, mate, you put on about 1.5 stone. Ridiculous. Eh? He goes, do you think I should wear would it matter if I wore black carrier bags? He goes, aye, for a month. You got fine. Kenny's like 1 stone overweight. Kenny's like, unbelievable.
And then after 3 years, is it 3 years you were at?
Was there 2.5? 2.5.
You joined Clydebank.
I joined Clydebank. Brian Wright was the manager. It was originally I went down to Stoke with Lou Mccarlen was the manager. But I was only supposed to go down for 3 days, ended up being there for 3 weeks. They were mucking about, so I goes, screw this. So I got a call from Jack Stevens, the chairman at the time, says, look, you fancy coming to Clydebank? And I've got, yeah, fair enough. But I was a bit sick of it. Sick of it, travelling about and unsure about my next direction.
Excuse me.
So he offered me a contract, just signed it. I signed a 2 or 3 year contract. So, but that didn't work out as well as I thought it would either. It turns out that Jack Stevens picked the team. And I wasn't having that, so what to have a part in our ways. So that's what happened there. I was playing regular, I was like 18-year-old playing the first division.
Yep.
I was playing every week, and then the Scottish Cup game. Remember when Ian Jess broke his leg at Petoddy?
Yep.
Murdoch landed on it. But he hauled me in the day before and says, look, it's a one-off game. We're going to go with experience. You're not going to start. I'm like, getting a bit pissed off with that. He goes, am I going to be the bench? He goes, no, we're not even going to put you on the bench. I'm like, really? So then obviously that was it. And as soon as he said that, I was like, nah, I'm not having that. Because how can a chairman pick a team? So it turns out that Mr. Wright was a yes man. So I was a bit pissed off, to be honest, Ken, but got the opportunity to go to Montrose and a swap deal.
Yep.
And was there for obviously 3-4 years. So.
Okay. Right, Levi, we'll come back to your term at Montrose in a wee bit, but for time being, thanks very much.
Thank you.
To my colleague, Dave Edwards.
Eddie, growing up in Aberdeen, were you kind of lad that was always playing football, always down the park kicking a ball?
Who, me?
Uh-huh.
I kicked the ball for the minute I got put to the shops with my mum and dad. They kicked the ball at the shops, we kicked the ball back, you know. So yeah. No, my start of football was Champion Street because we actually won the first ever Champion Street. It was
we won the third one.
We won the very first one, and 96 goals. 96 goals, 7 against, and I scored 35 of them. So that was kind of the making of me, to be quite honest.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good return, that, Eddie. What position were you playing?
Sorry?
Keeper.
Oh, no, I was some neighbours. I was some decent sides there, some decent players that played in the Highland League, actually, when they were older as well. But no, that competition was a great thing for getting the kick. Well, it's where Joe Hughes started as well. So it was a great kick-off for guys coming into the game. And I'm sure Levi played in it as well.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. I agree with Eddie. It was we played the full pitch, 11 aside.
Aye.
It was at 7 to 10-year-olds.
And then you were off in the same area. Which
exactly.
Made it even
well, the one street,
fantastic competition.
You had to pick one street, and you had to live like 400 yards for that particular street. If you're near, you were ineligible.
That's right. You're right, Levi. And I'll tell you, it was a brilliant thing. It was a great competition, and it's quite sad that they didn't do it anymore.
I think we should.
In the full context.
I think we should sponsor it, Eddie. Me and you can get together. You know?
Ah, yeah, exactly.
But your first senior football club was Arbroath Football Club, Eddie. How did that come about?
Well, what happened was I was supposed to sign for Sunnybank, and I wasn't too sure. And then Kenny Leslie, you must mind Kenny for Cove, he was Kitman at Cove. He was manager of East End, and RIP, by the way, because Kenny's dead now. But he came up to my door on a Saturday morning to sign me. And I just got home for the night before, and he was like, well, I'll tell you, I've been in that when you come to East End. Well, what happened was I signed for East End and did a pre-season friendly against Arbroath Vicks. And I only played the second half, and the Arbroath scout was there on a Saturday. And he invited me doing the Monday, and we drew 3-3 with Dundee United, and I scored the 3 of them. So I ended up signing for Arbroath. I played one game for East End, and it was a friendly. But I think had I been at like a Banks of Dees or a Sunny Banks, it would have been harder to get away. But East End didn't stand my way, and I always thank them for that, because they just let me go.
What position were you playing, Eddie, when you were at Arbroath then?
I was a striker until I broke my leg, and then Martin Stewart came in and stole my position. So when I broke my leg that year at Huntly, like when I was fit, Martin was obviously flying, and Pelly says, Eddie, I can see you play in the middle of the park, and that was it. I never looked back.
So you had a couple of years at Arbroath, and then a big move came. You went to Peterhead.
Well, to be quite honest, I had a bit of a bad attitude towards the end at Arbroath, and actually made my first team debut against Aberdeen at Pittodrie in a League Cup tie, and that was when they first signed me. But I wasn't behaving myself, I wasn't looking after myself very well, and yeah, I got freed and I signed for Peterhead, and then I went in with likes of the Lawsons and the Krakowskis, and I kind of grew up a wee bit, and it was a good kick in the backside. To be quite honest, it was a step back to go forward, and then ended up I got transferred to Montrose, but I had a choice at Dundee. But Donald Mackay was the manager at Dundee at the time, but he was only offering my year's contract, and full time. But I opted for the 3 years with Montrose. Yeah.
At Peterhead, you must have a story about your charismatic chairman, Robbie Warnder.
Robbie, I'll tell you the best story about Robbie Warnder, right? And I don't know if you've heard it, right? But it was when Bobby Wilson was manager of Keith, and they were winning everything at the time. So the year-end meeting, the AGM at the end of the year, but I was 8 Keith players in a Highland League select.
Thank you.
And Lossy Mouth were doing it at bottom of the league at that time. So at the end of the meeting, they says, well, is Abdi Harvey, has anything to say? And Robbie stood up, his hands in his breeches as he normally did, and says, well, I'm just glad that Bobby Wilson was the manager of Lossy Mouth.
He was some boy, Robbie, wasn't he? He was amazing.
I remember, I was one time, he was reversing his car in alongside, and a woman about 90 had walked past the back of his car, and Robbie was reversing, and she panicked a wee bit, and he put down his window and he says, it's all right, Mrs. Smith, you're decent enough without me hitting you. No, absolutely brilliant guy. And I'll tell you, he did one thing for me that I think was a nice touch, that when I signed for Arbroath, when they got me for, I signed for nothing for Peterhead, and they signed on for nothing. And Dennis Darcy sort of says to him, look, if Eddie ever goes anywhere else, he gets half a transfer fee. And I didn't even know about this. And when I signed for Montrose, I got half a transfer fee, and he never even needed to tell me that, because I didn't know.
Brilliant.
So it's a measure of the man, really, you know.
Yeah.
It was a good touch.
Yeah. You see a couple of seasons in throws after your days at Recreation Park then?
Yeah, but what happened was I was top scorer down there actually at the time. And Pat McCluskey sadly died this week, I noticed.
Yeah.
And he broke my kneecap, deliberately, but I would never, that's fit by you, didn't I? It's sad that a man's died anyway. But, so, they says there was chances I wouldn't play again. But Ian Stewart was a guy that freed me for Arbroath, and in all fairness to him, he played me regular at Montrose, but I wasn't enjoying it, quite honestly. And when I went to Rothes, it was a Highland League feeling. I think it's a social side of it in Highland League. It does it after games. Like, if you're not Scottish League, as Levi will agree with me, you get a pie and a cup of tea and you're throwing the bus. You're travelling all over Scotland. There's a bit of banter, there's a bit of camera. And hey, I'll tell you, I hated Levi on the pitch, and he hated me just as much. But seeing it right after the game, you're in a drink, it's finished. Yeah. And that's the way it should be. But I just felt the Scottish League, unless you got the top level, sometimes it's not very personal, you know?
It's just the thing that the lower end Scottish League clubs, you think they're like part of the AC Milan committee, Ken?
Exactly.
That's pissed me off, Ken. It bugged me, Ken. It's like, well, Ken, you'd be waiting the bus for them to come out. Ken, the board, Ken, in the boardroom, they'd be getting sloshed and we'd be sitting in our suits and shirt and tie and that, waiting to get in. It's like, you can't do that, Ken.
No, the thing's, Levi, it's a pie cup of tea on the bus.
Yeah, that's it.
And
the board members are in the boardroom getting sloshed.
Oh, they're sitting here this week. Exactly. But no, don't get me wrong, the class is a better level, and obviously it is to a certain extent, but it's enjoyable unless you're going stepping up the ladder. It's like I could have went into Peterhead. I got off the year when they went into the Scottish division, but I was 39 at the time, and I was like, no.
Quite right. Martin, you wanted to come in there a minute?
Well, I just want to say, I ken the real reason why Eddie wanted to sign for Rothes is so he could wear the very trendy yellow tracksuits that they had at the time.
I'll tell you, Martin, I couldn't believe that tracksuits, right?
Sponsored by Giant B Rare, Dave.
But I'll tell you, Martin, in all fairness, that was a good Rothes side. And I'll tell you, a magical man, Ray Bernardi, he was a really cracking man. I've never seen Ray, and I don't know how far he is now, but amazing guy. And he was good to me. But we had a good side there. We Dave Oxley, myself, Alan Forrest, Semth, Joe Mccarlen. I'll tell you, we're on a bad side.
Nice man, Raymond Bernardi. I was going to say with Raymond in 1970, 71. He was a toller.
Lovely guy.
Yeah. Eddie, we'll come back and move you on from McKessick Park. But for the moment, it's back to my mate, Martin Johnson.
Thanks, Dave. Dennis, first of all, thanks very much for joining us at short notice.
Not a problem. Delighted to be on.
Appreciate that. And as I was saying earlier on, you're wearing the ex-referee issue glasses, same as myself. I think the first time we met was probably at Dudgeon Park. I think me being me, I was probably arriving. We would certainly maybe half an hour before kick-off or something, and I'm into the dressing room making sure you boys will have checked in it, sort of thing. So I think that's the first time we'd admit. But give us a wee bit about it, because you're actually an Aberdeenshire loon.
Yeah, Dad was born and brought up in Aberdeen actually, and we lived in Ellen. Went to Ellen Academy and then Bridgeford Academy, where football was very much to the fore. Sadly, I am not the most talented footballer. I'm one-footed. the left one's for standing. I can't head for Scotland, and I had far too much to say. So I never really did anything in school football, which was a big disappointment to me, because some of my best friends, and still my best friends, played at school level, certainly, and one or two of them could have gone on to play at a higher level. I've no doubt one in particular could have played at a higher level. So I was quite a late starter into refereeing, and it was just a chance to mark. And I'd followed Aberdeen. I was at Hampden when they won the cup final in 1970, and it's probably still my fondest memories of watching Aberdeen. I was in Gothenburg when they won that, and then I moved north. So that's sort of I got a business opportunity to move north. So I had to sort of stop following Aberdeen, and I was sort of in no man's land. I went to odd Highland League game, but never really interested. And then they were looking for guys to run the line in those days. Of course, you had to do an apprenticeship, which was very important in junior football in Ross-shire. And I'll tell you what, that's character building. And I said, if you can do a junior game by yourself, you'll handle anything. And then I progressed to the Highland League. Sadly, the years caught up with me, and I was never going to go further because I was time constraints. But fantastic time in Highland League, really good, and made a lot of fantastic friends. And even players who I had sent off, one or two famous guys I had sent off, they still speak, and they agree now that I was probably correct. They deserve to be sent off, which is great.
I think a lot of people don't realise there's quite often there is maybe not so much nowadays, but in certainly our time there, so it's quite a lot of banter between match officials, and I always found that could get you out of a sticky situation sometimes.
It's I can't resist when I see young referees or young linesmen coming through, assistant referees coming through, and it's my biggest criticism. Speak to players. You don't need to be friendly with a player, but speak to a player. And there's one or two guys now heading for the Scottish League, and that was my piece of advice to them. You're not communicating with people. You don't need to be friendly, but at least inform them why you're making a decision. Yeah. And you can do it in a way past. Billy Ferris who I'm very friendly with. He was a great character, and he would say as you went past, you got that one wrong. I said, well, I'll try and get the next one correct. You missed an open goal, but lighten the load a bit. And find it, and you can pick players. Some players that you're better not speaking to, because all you'll get back is a tirade of rubbish. Yeah. But you'll soon learn who the guys you'll learn very quickly the guys you can speak to. That would be my biggest concern and biggest criticism of young referees.
Yeah. Seem to have a bit of difficulty in being able to converse with their charges.
Maybe it was easier for me because I was that little bit older, and as you get older, you're maybe a bit more confident. Yeah. But I run a line with one or two very famous referees, and I used to shake my head, And it was a poor guy in the line who got all the stick. Yeah.
I recall the first. Levi?
You remember Bob Valentine?
Yes.
He'd retired. He had a lot of. You used to go down to Dun United. He used to have trial games. They'd ask Mr. Valentine, as he was called, no Bob, Mr. Valentine, because he was retired. So he'd come in and we'd play the Dun United's pitch again on the full pitch. He'd been retired like 5 years. We'd always come back, and he's one of those refs when you're like, oh my God, Bob Valentine, everything you get. He's one of those. He was stern, he was strict, but you could. He was. I think his sense of humour was very dry.
Yeah,
but he obviously knew how to referee a game, and he knew who to push and who not to push. So from that respect, he did get a lot of respect.
When I was president of the North of Scotland referee, Bob was sort of in the senior management of the referee movement. You couldn't meet a nicer guy.
Yeah.
He was a good referee, and he knew how to handle people.
Yeah.
And if you look back, and I'm sure you guys and Eddie as well, who was, there was no quarter asked or given by Eddie, and I remember him well. But a guy like Bob Valentine, he just got on with the game, and you knew there was a line that you didn't cross, and if you crossed that line, you were going to get in trouble.
The thing is, Dennis, the Larry Officer. Do you remember Larry Officer?
Yes,
yeah.
I remember one time I had a real moaning groan about him. Something I was gone for a bit, and he says to me, Eddie, come here a minute, and he just says, "It's not my fault. You're too effing slow and you didn't get here." And you've no answer to that. There's no answer to that. You just bang. That's it. And but I agree with totally with what you're saying, that referees didn't. A lot of them nowadays are about them. The hand up. You need to just see if you communicate. It's whether you're happy with. Martin sent me off on a few occasions, right? Whether I liked it or not, you were probably right, Martin. But at the time,
unusual, but there you go.
That's just the way it is. But at least you could hear a bit of banter.
Well, I think that's an important thing, banter. I remember, I couldn't tell you who the player was. Was it Nairn? A free kick in the edge of the box, and the Nairn players are waiting to take a free kick, and he's setting up the ball, and the guys are getting the ball back, and he turns to me and he says, "I'm going to score here, ref." And I says, "No, you're not." He says, "I'll bet you £5 I score here." I says, "Didn't I waste your money, son?" He goes, "How can you be so sure?" I says, "It's indirect."
I'll tell you, Martin, I'll give you. Do you mind Joe Zogolowski played with Ross County?
No, it's not a name for me. Dennis, is that a name for you?
No.
Zogolowski and Frank Krakowski had a go up at Dingwall when we were playing there, right? And the referee says to him, "Right, 2 years over here, names. Here's him, Joe Zogolowski, Frank Krakowski. Here's him, Daddy again." That's true. That's true.
Dennis, who were the characters that you were involved with when you were?
Oh man. Well, I mentioned Billy Ferris. I'm very friendly with Billy, but there was some, Eddie there, and you knew with Eddie, at least he was trying. So, towards the end of his career, he was a little bit late, but at least he was trying. But boys like, Gary, I saw some fantastic players. Gary Farher could turn a game in a sixpence. About one pass, Jim Oliver, Alan.
Dennis Donald Mackay.
Yeah.
What a player he was.
Yeah. Alan Hertzer, the late great Alan Hertzer. He was a fantastic guy. Alan Duff was another guy, and okay, I'm maybe speaking about local guys, but and boys like Donald Allen at Brora. Now,
I was just thinking about Donald there, because.
Well, hey Martin, I had some kick-offs with Donald. I bumped him not long ago in the tune as well, and we did nothing but fight me and him, honestly.
His boys...
No, a lovely guy.
Did both his boys play football, Dennis?
David Allen plays for Wick.
His brother Ross plays for Wick too.
That's right.
Yep.
Donald was Brora Rangers through and through, and that was the days when Brora didn't have 2 pence together, and those guys used to travel over the Ard to train, and they would have gone through a brick wall.
Well, I would have to say he quite often tried to go through a brick wall. That was his problem.
I'll tell you.
I'll tell you,
Martin, he had a hair like Michael Jackson.
And I'll tell you what, if you were a linesman and Donald Allen thought you were wrong, inevitably you were wrong, or you were half asleep and you'd missed it. Fantastic, great guys. But, there's good guys kicking about now. A lot of good personalities. They say personalities are dead. Personalities move on, and the thing changes slightly. But there's some great characters, and especially.
I remember my debut in the Highland League was up at Brora, right? And me and Joe Mulholland got sent off. And I'll tell you, that's the hardest punch in the face I've ever had. I squared up to Joe, and he smacked me, and he threw his end up. Oh, my lovely guy, Joe. Good player too.
I was once tipped off. When I started refereeing, it was just the end of the new stand had been built. Just maybe at my start of my first season, second season, I think it was, and I was tipped off that if you send somebody off at Brora, and it was the same applied. If you had a double sending off, if it was Brora, if it was Lossy, or if it was Princess Royal Park, the tip was you didn't put them off together, because if you put them, they're going to be probably knock 7 bells out at each other by the time they got off the corner of the park. So
Me and Joe were scrapping for about 5 minutes.
yeah, so by the time they made their way to the Nissen hut, so you kind of you put one off and you held one back a second or two till the other was away, and then you let the other one go.
Well, in that note, I think it would have been my very first season at Brora as a linesman. You know, the very first season, and Jimmy Anderson was playing for Brora, and Jimmy was still a super guy, but oh man at times. Anyway, it was Huntley, funnily enough, that he was playing, and the play had gone away back up the field, and Jim Anderson sort of tickled the back of a Huntley player, you know. So me being me, pop, went to flag straight as I die, and it was the late great David Hewmett was in the middle, you see, and play was raging on. Anyway, Cuba, nickname, had clocked it, the flag was up. Anyway, come across. And yeah, what's the problem? I says, well, fullback Jimmy Anderson punched, I can't remember a Huntley player. Mr. Anderson was duly asked across and sent off. I thought there was nothing more left to be said, you see. So on the way off, Jimmy, in the way in, knocked a foot through the wall of the Dudgeon Park stand, and then decided to kick a heater in the Brora changing room from one end to the other. And I thought, well, welcome to the Highland League, you know. And he was sitting waiting for me as I went in, and of course, full of apologies. I didn't really hit him that hard. And I said, well, the fact is, you hit him. That was the important thing. He said, well, fair cop. But so there is character still kicking about. Yeah.
Dennis, you said obviously you were like myself. You succumbed to the age rule as it was then. Different story now. We did try to tell them at the time. There was a lot of, you know, seriously good referees, and I didn't include myself in that. There's a lot of good referees, you know, were pushed to one side because of the age limit, and they've relaxed that rule now. But you end up, which many match officials do, myself and David McDonald, and the list is endless, you end up at Brora Rangers. Yeah. Was that always in your mind to get involved, or
no, not really?
But
there is a story to that. Actually, the last season, we'd been told that the cut-off was going to be 50, which was absolutely crazy. And they said to me, right, you don't need to do the last fitness test. There's no point. You're stopping in a month's time. And I took umbrage at that, and I said, well, that's an insult. You know, I've never failed a fitness test yet. Anyway, as you can remember, the last discipline in those days was a 12-minute run. So you just slogged it out, 12 minutes, round the Queen's Park running track in Inverness. Anyway, I lapped a senior referee. And I thought, you know, I lapped him. Okay, it took me 12 minutes and it was just in the last leg, but it was a sheer determination. And I thought, well, there's a guy who's hoping to go on and progress in his refereeing career. And I lapped him. So anyway, and I thought there was no requirement for me to retire. But that was his story. So remind me, oh yeah,
Brora.
We moved on. Yeah, my second last game in the Highland League was at Brora. And John Young, the then chairman, came across and he said, oh, what are you doing when you retire? I said, well, I'll maybe do the juniors for a season or something, but I'm just going to buy out. He said, oh, well, would you come to Brora and join the committee? We're really short of bodies. And I come home and I discussed it with my late wife, and she said, yeah, well, it won't take up that much time, will it? And I said, oh, no. Just the odd Saturday. That was a big mistake.
You obviously didn't have the same conversation I had with mine, and she says, well, please yourself, but you may buying at him on a Saturday.
Well,
I have no idea who comes. I have no idea who comes to the house on a Saturday, but...
Dennis.
Aye.
Was John Young, was that Charlie Barber's brother-in-law?
No, don't think so. No. John Young has been in Brora since ever.
I thought John was Charlie's brother-in-law. Charlie Barber's brother-in-law, no?
Oh yeah, maybe it is.
He was. Is he was his sister?
Oh God,
she was married to Charlie.
Ask and pass. I would have to pass in that one.
I'm sure he was.
Right. But tune in to Long Lost Families next week, folks, and we'll be able to...
So anyway, I come home and said to my wife, I said, I've been asked to join the Brora committee. Oh, she said, that's fine, we can go shopping the odd Saturday, and that'll be Jackie Dandy. So anyway, John says, well, you know, you're straight talking, we need your business acumen and all the rest of it. And anyway, that was the start of it, and I progressed from there. And you know, it was a poor substitute for being in the field, and it took me a while to adapt.
Now, really when you say it took you a while to adapt, what you're saying, it took you a while to see the game through red tinted glasses. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the funny thing is, it was then controversial in the park. They immediately came to me and looked at me as much as say, well, what's going on?
Aye,
and
I know.
Especially the odd offside, and when I explain, well, you really can't be offside from a goal kick and things like that. And it's amazing the amount of people who don't know that. I did find it very difficult, and I found it very difficult to keep my tongue in my head. And for a start, and I was taken aside by one supervisor and said, look, you've got to calm down. I said, well, tell him to make a better job of it and I'd calm down. But I had the odd run in for a start. And,
I think we've had a similar conversation before, Dennis, because I think most ex-referees go through that situation. I had when I came down, obviously I went back onto the Highland League for a line. I did 2 lines and said, no, this is nice. Because I had players coming to me saying, tell the referee this, and I said, no, I'm the go-between. He's the boss.
There was not telling tales out of school, but there was odd referee. My normal seat in the stand, director's box and stand, and where I normally sit. And there was a couple of games I had to go away and stand with the boys behind the goal because I was going to make a fool of myself by losing the plot. And I knew some of these guys reasonably well, and it wasn't particularly fair. And there was one referee took me into the referee's room after the game and was going to give me a reprimand. And his opening line, well, this is a two-way conversation. You know, I speak and you listen. And I said, look, I invented that saying. So come up with something original. So it sort of broke the ice a little bit, but I thought, no, I'm going to have to distance myself here, or I'm going to land myself in trouble. And especially younger guys coming through, you know, I don't know them so well, and I've left them.
Yeah.
And on the whole, I'm making a good job.
Yeah. Levi?
Apologies, Dennis. We've got a 12-week-old puppy, right, and it's just bloody chewing my bloody toe, clawing at my leg. I'm listening, it's this bloody dog. Well, it looks like a dog, but it's actually a rat, so.
Dennis, we'll hear about your next stage as you progress up the ladder, let's say, in club, not team management, but club management. But for now, thanks very much for that very interesting insight. Dave?
Levi, 1993, you leave Clydebank and you move to Montrose Football Club.
Yeah, only because they were offering the most money.
Who's the manager?
Good move, Levi.
Who's the manager? It was actually John Holt, I think.
John Holt, yeah.
Yeah, John Holt.
Yeah.
Yeah, funnily enough, when I asked to leave Rangers and they let me go eventually, I went to Montrose when Jim Leishman was there.
Yeah.
Big Leash. And obviously they were interested, and I'm like, well, no, I'd obviously try and go get a bit further. And then I ended up going to Clydebank. And then an opportunity came along when I got obviously I wanted away from Clydebank. Didn't like what was going on there. The swap deal with me and a boy, Martin Nelson. Martin Nelson was at Montrose. He went to Clydebank and I went up in the opposite direction. So I signed for John Holt. It was okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm a centre midfielder. I've not got the pace. But for some reason, every club I go to, they put me on the left, wide, as a winger. And that's kind of. I had a good engine, but I'm more of a centre midfielder, kind of passing and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But he kept playing me on the wing. So I obviously went in December, and then finished that season, and then again we started putting on the left, kind of wide left. And I'm like, look, I wasn't interested. And he's like, he obviously took me in his office. He's like, what's the problem? I'm like, well, the problem is I'm a centre midfielder. You put me left mid or left winger, okay, which is one of the hardest positions you can play. He's like, he's saying, oh, I think that's your best position. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, my best position is the centre of the park or off the front too.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, a pre-season game come up against a junior team in Dundee, and he put me off the front. We were up 5-0 at half time. I scored 2, set up 3. And he came in at half time. He's like, Ken, what happened there? I'm like, well, why do you not play like that every week? I'm like, well, why don't you play me in my position every week?
Yeah.
Say, yeah. So it went from there. So the first 10 games we played against Falkirk in the League Cup at Brockville, and it was 1-1. Went into penalties. Obviously, I'm 18. I've took the first pen. And it's against Nigel Spink. Remember him at Tottenham, the goalkeeper who won
Aston
the
Villa.
UEFA Cup? Yeah. He won the Spink. The guy. He played for Tottenham. He won Tottenham the UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
What's his name? The goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Anyway, he signed for Falkirk at the time, but then obviously I've took the first pen in front and I've scored it. But unbeknown to me, Jim Jeffries he was a manager at Falkirk at the time. He put a bid in, getting put me back into full time, but Montrose never told me. And also I signed for them on the condition that if any club came in, it's very difficult to go full time, part time, then back into full time.
Yeah.
I said if a club comes in, but they obviously never told me. I only found out when I'd left. The Jim Jeffries put a bid in. He said, how much you want? And they're like, well, 30 grand. And like, well, it's a lot of money for... Because Falkirk didn't have a lot of money at that time either. So obviously that scuppered that. Then I actually signed an initial 2-year contract. Then my contract was up. Then I wouldn't say I was forced to sign a contract, but my circumstances at the time were such that I had no option but to sign a 2-year extension. But what they done was they were a bit naughty because they offered me less terms, sign-on fee, less wages. But there's a rule, I don't know if it still exists, but the club, if you get offered new terms, the club has to match or better your previous terms. If they don't do that, then you automatically become a free agent, which would be ideal for me. But so I sort of got screwed over there as well. And basically, I just didn't. I think I've got a thing about Dun United ex-players and coaches. I don't seem to get on with them at all.
Yeah.
John Holt, Billy Kirkwood at Rangers. Yeah, so I don't know, a bit difficult.
Yeah. After 3 years at Links Park, you find yourself going back to your old club, Clydebank.
No, that's actually me. That was an error, so I do apologise.
What was? Well, one accord then.
What happened was, this is what happened. John Holt got the sack, and then Andy Dornan, he got the sack. And then they took the boy Dave Smith in from Whitehall Welfare. Right, so the first training session is this. He's brought a whistle out for the first training session, right? And I'm like, really? A whistle? So I'm sure Eddie will he'll be of the same opinion as me.
I don't like whistles.
No. Coming out with a whistle, and I'm like, right, okay. So he goes, get in fours, lads. Right? Now, 10 yards apart. Now, Levi, you start it off. You pass the ball with your right foot. You control it with your left, and then you pass it in a square. And I'm like, are you serious? He's like, no, this is what I want you to do. So I'm like, all right, and Kenny's the boss again. And we've done it. So everybody's like, yes, the training is like ridiculous. It's like going back to school, okay? So next training session, I've stole his whistle. I went in his office, took his whistle, fucking put it in the bin again. He's coming in, he's like, what the fuck's my whistle, okay? So now he's pissing us and laughing. But it was getting ridiculous, because it's like training wasn't enjoyable. So at this point, Brian Keith, he was the chairman. Montrose was also his son, was Bon Accord.
Yeah.
So I've went into his office, I've knocked on his door in the office and went, right, I'm just telling you now, I'm going to Bon Accord. He's like, what? He goes, yeah, I'm going to Bon Accord Juniors. He's like, no, you're not. I goes, I am. He goes, I said, I am. He goes, no, you're not. I goes, I'm telling you, Brian Keith's the chairman, right? I'm Montrose, his son, so I'm going to Bon Accord. He goes, no, you're not. He goes, I can understand you maybe going to Dundee, St. Joseph's, or one of the bigger junior teams, but Bon Accord. goes, I'm going. He goes, no. He goes, I've just had an offer for Forfar. You're going there, kid. And I'm like, I'm going nowhere. Ken, speak to Brian. He'll sort it out, kid. So obviously Brian's like, oh, you're no go. You're coming to us, kid. So obviously I went to Bonaccord. Because my idea, my thinking was if I go back and start again. So obviously I had my bad injury at 50, kind of done my cruciates and kind of wasn't there. So I was at Rangers for like 2.5 years. And I worked it out. I'd only played like about 9 months in my 2.5 years because I was always injured. So I thought if I go to Bonaccord juniors, I kind of start again and hopefully build myself up. But obviously, as it turned out, I got an opportunity to go to Australia, and then I had the best 2 years of my life. But
before you went to the other side of the world, you did have a little spell and a few games with Keith as well. Is that right?
Yeah, Lossiemouth, Billy Anderson took me up to Lossie, put me up front.
Yeah,
I think I scored 3 goals in 5 games or something. His name was put me up striker, so I was really enjoyed it. Then obviously Keith came in. They were going for the league, Martin Allen. But I remember I'd done my knee. I'd done my knee in a game. I think it was it Broch? I guess it Broch. And then I just said I've had enough. I felt a snap, a ping in my knee, and I goes, oh, that's it. So I actually retired. I actually quit football for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then obviously I bumped into Billy Anderson in Union Street in Aberdeen. He's like, what you do? Get me up to, I've retired. He's like, I've retired. What are you on about? He's like, I've just had enough, Ken. And then he goes, I'm going to Australia with Scott, his son Scotty. He explained the situation, Ken. They're paying for him to go over, get jobs and that. And I'm like, hook me up, Ken, hook me up. He goes, well, are you serious? He goes, oh, aye. I'll drop everything and go. He's like, leave it to me, Levi, and I'll go and see. And then sure enough, a couple of days later, I got the call, they also want you to come across with us. They just kicked on from there.
Was Australia ready for Levi Stevens?
Well, was I ready for Australia? I was. But when I went, it was a team in Griffith in Ugali, which is 90% Italian in the population. But it's two hours west of Sydney. 2 hours on a plane west of Sydney. So obviously I was there for, I think we were there for 3 months. Then I done my knee again. Billy was obviously, he was the manager. He goes, right, this training session, no tackles. Baseline tackles, no tackles. Okay, the first game's coming up. So I've went past the guy and the guy slid in. And I've stepped over him, pushed off, and I'm like, that's my knee gone again. So it turns out you guys have not got any insurance. So I'm like, so obviously we put pressure on him. No, you need to get us sorted out. It's not our fault. You've took us over. You promised us this, promised us that. So a few phone calls there. I end up having to go back to Sydney. So it goes back to Sydney, and I got the one of the best surgeons in Australasia. He was he treated the sumo wrestlers. So that was a boost, Ken. So anyway, he sorted us out. Obviously, when I'd done my knee, we'd said, right, enough's enough. We buggered off to Brisbane first. And then we've got the contact to come down to Sydney for Brisbane, which is a 16-hour drive. Incidentally, on the way up there, we've done 15.5 hours and half an hour to go, we hit a kangaroo. A baby kangaroo, again, that was it, car written off. Half an hour faking. But no, I went down there, then went back up to Brisbane. Then obviously didn't work out there, then obviously went back down to Sydney myself, and then it just kicked off there. Just a fabulous time.
I take it you enjoyed life in Oz, Levi?
Sydney was absolutely amazing. I had a contact in Sydney who was associated with the Sharks. It's Sutherlandshire Soccer Sharks. And what it was is I had my CV, obviously Rangers, Scotland Schoolboys, Scotland Youth. And I gave him my CV. He goes, look, you have to play a game on Tuesday. I'm like, no problem. I'll play again, but kick off. So it turns up, gets stripped, plays the game, and I got the manager took me off after 20 minutes. And I'm like, I'm coming off like, fucking, what are you doing? Taking me off, guys, taking me off. Joke. He goes, no, the president wants to speak to you. get showered and go and see him. So I got showered, went into the boardroom sort of thing. The president's like, right, Levi, how much you want? And I'm like, oh, I'll have it. And he goes, aye, sign this again. I'm like, brilliant. Okay. But the problem was, in Australia, they play games on a Sunday. I like my Saturdays, you know what I mean? I like my Saturday night suit. That's a problem for me. So I couldn't go into Friday, couldn't go into Saturday because I had a bloody game on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
So it was like, nightmare. But no, I'm playing in 34-degree heat, 2 o'clock, Sunday afternoon. Okay, it was just amazing. So I couldn't believe I was getting the ball, being able to turn and dictate to play. There's obviously back in Scotland, you get the ball, you get hammered.
Yeah.
But I remember my first game, after the game, we're having a shower, and I'm obviously lathering myself up. A boy called Jimmy Corbell, who's Uruguayan, he's as hairy as me. He comes in the shower next to me, and I'm like that, Ken. And I've looked and I went, what? I goes, what is that? He goes, what? I goes, you've shaved your legs. He goes, aye. What's wrong with that? I goes, aye, you've shaved your legs, but you've left your arse hairy. Got hairy shorts, Ken. So he's shaved his legs up to his arse, and he's got hairy shorts. He goes, aye, but you can't see them. I've got my shorts on, Ken. He goes, anyway, you fucking mad Scotsman, you hairy bastard, run about 36 degrees. You're asking, you get like that? But honestly, like that, crazy. But I really enjoyed that. It was amazing time.
Brilliant. Well, we'll touch on your return to Scotland very shortly. For the moment, thanks for that, Levi.
No worries.
Eddie, obviously, we've a past history back at Rothes. If I recall correctly, maybe I just dreamt this, but did you score with an overhead bicycle kick in your debut?
I heard about that.
Aye.
Because the guy standing next to me, he scored the goal. I'd never seen anything like that in real time. And the guy standing next to me went, ching ching.
The thing is, Martin, a lot of people, like, I had a great career as a midfielder, but I always thought I was a better striker. Aye, but that's the way it worked out.
I think maybe at Rothes you're allowed a bit more freedom than you might have been.
Like I say, I was a striker with Peter Hay, I was a striker with Montrose. But like I said, in that time at Huntly, when I broke my leg and Marty came in and I sort of got into midfield, but it was also a good option if we were needing a wee goal, I'd get thrown up front here and there. But no.
So 1985, we've got to speak about 1985.
I'll tell you, I've been thinking about it all day, right? And I'm not joking. Right, to me, I was a young lad at the time, Martin, right? And I didn't think it was too serious, right? But when Rangers win a League Cup and you get a bigger headline in the back of the P&J than the Rangers win the League Cup, I thought, well, there is a problem.
So, enlighten the viewers. I think you were probably Rothes were the first. We were the first to sign you.
No, what happened was, and I got pulled into touch after what happened with me, right? Because at that time, what I didn't ken, right, was Montrose wanted to get me fit, and I was just coming back for a leg break, so I'd been out for about 10 months. So they put me at Rothes, but Forbes Shan, being Forbes Shan, did his research, right? And I wasn't in a loan, because there wasn't such thing as a loan agreement. Montrose had to cancel my contract and I signed for Rothes. Well, I didn't care that, but Forbes did. Yeah. And this is how I kicked off. But as for this, I Jimmy Wilson and the Keith Committee in my house one night saying, oh, Huntly's been illegal. We've touched base with the SFA and Montrose, and you're still a Montrose player. So I'd already signed for Huntly, right? And that's a true story, right? I'd already signed for Huntly. But because, and I was still with Rothes, it's still like 2 weeks of my contract remaining with them. On my loan period, well, unofficial loan. And then Keith had came in, and I was a young lad, yeah, was they switched on me on this, and they were like, oh, the SFA have told us they're not going to accept Huntly's registration of you. So I'm like, oh, well, if they're not going to accept, okay. So I signed for them. And it just escalated for there. But I'll tell you one thing, it did happen. Once it went into dispute, Forbes Sean came up my house and got his cheque back. And that's a fact. But at the end of the day, I ended up, Huntly did suss it out right. I was a free agent, and I got fined for the SFA for my misdemeanours, and then I just got on with playing football, which I was quite happy to do. But it was a bit of an embarrassing situation, and when you see a headline saying the man with signed for 4 clubs, it must look like a bottle.
I think it's fair to say as well, Eddie.
It was crazy days.
The young 19-year-old secretary at Rothes at the time was probably a wee bit wet behind the ears.
Oh, just believe that and everybody tell you.
And so I think if it was to happen again, well, it could happen again now, but I'd like to think I'd be a wee bit older and a wee bit wiser in the future, and Forbes would have been left empty-handed.
Oh, I did it. Learn my wee lesson. Like.
So, who was the Huntly manager at the time?
It seemed me, well, Frankie Laws, but what happened was Frankie Laws, a lovely guy. Frankie, he was sacked 2 weeks after I was there. And then in came John Fitzpatrick, Man United legend. John, lovely guy, absolutely lovely guy, John. And I enjoyed playing under John, and it just kicked on for there.
Because I was actually researching your Huntly career, and you said that you'd been there quite a while before you started winning trophies. Believe you me, it was quite a long time before.
The Aberdeenshire Cup against Devon Vale was my first trophy.
Yeah. But you actually picked up 4 Aberdeenshire Cups in total during that time. But obviously,
I've got 7 Aberdeenshire Cups.
But in that first half of your career, first 7 years, the elusive title was going to come in the second half of your Huntly career. And so, like you said earlier on, you're a seasoned Huntly player, well before the successes.
Before the success came. I see the bad days. We were on a bad side, Martin, but I went back and I met him with Wally Lawson for a song touch with Wally. Wally was my mentor without a shadow of a doubt, and it always will be. And but we would play the best teams, and we would get beat 4. Well, it was high scoring games.
Yeah. And who do you have teammate wise at then? Before the established team came, the teammates, who were the guys who came and went, and that's a first 4 or 5 years?
Sorry, say that again, Martin.
Who are the guys that you played with the first 4 or 5 seasons at Huntly?
Well, Derek Nichol, Jim Watson, these sort of guys, seasoned campaigners, but gradually, well, Joe came in after John Fitzpatrick, Joe Harper, and then Pelly came in. And then when Pelly came in, it kicked on for there. Pelly was clever with signings because our dressing room was a bit of a crazy dressing room. It was sink or swim. And I remember, and to this day, I didn't even care the guy he was speaking about, but Pelly told us one day he spoke to this guy who was wanting to sign. He was one of the top players in the Highland League at the time. And he spoke to him, he says, I spoke to him and I couldn't even survive in your dressing room 2 minutes. And that's the way it was.
Yeah.
You can, and obviously Pelly came in, took Rugby, and Rugby came in, and characters like John Gardner, and it was a good dressing room, but it could be aggressive sometimes, and that's the way it was.
Actually, you could tell that as a referee. You know, you're seeing different dressing rooms before the game, and you can tell the clubs, their players' body language, etc. And you're right. It was It was probably
it was a
environment.
good thing because I went to Peterhead after all that years at Huntly, right? And when I walked in that dressing room, and no offence to Peterhead because they're a fantastic club, I'd been with them previously, it felt like a different dressing room because sometimes there was a bit of cliques and I was never that. I was not two-faced. In our dressing room, I was not two-faced. If one had a problem, bump, it was out and open, had it out. But I found, when I left there, I think I maybe didn't appreciate that dressing room until I came out of it.
Winning mentality. That's what it is. Winning. It's a winning mentality. You're winners.
Exactly. It was.
Yep. Everybody's got the same common aim. I'm going to speak to you now about something that happened at Huntly for the first time in 20 years. And I'll break with the tradition. I'll let Dave finish this bit of the interview because obviously he's got a vested interest in the story. Scottish Cup. Eddie, Huntly beat Civil Service Strollers 4-2. It was their first cup win in 20 years. It's hard to believe it. Huntly had gone such a long time without being in the cup. Not so much important that game, other than the fact that it broke their duck. But you played Dumbarton in the next round.
Well, I'll tell you what, Martin. I went out. I left for a game on a Friday, right? And I got home on Monday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning.
So, well, I'm going to take you through you beat Dumbarton 2-0, and then over to you, Dave. Because I believe you stayed at the Glen Eagles Hotel that night.
No, Dunblane Hydro.
Dunblane Hotel, should I say? Yeah. You'd never been allowed back to the Glen Eagles.
Well, the crazy thing was, on the Sunday, we'd been up all night drinking. For the Saturday, obviously, after the result. And then we had a lot of money on the bookies because we were 16-1, right? So that was even better. But on a Sunday, everybody, after about 12 o'clock lunchtime, we got a phone call. And I took the phone call, the reception says, look, one of you guys took this phone call, it's a Daily Record. That's for that big picture. It was in a double spread in the Daily Record the Monday. And he says to us, what time are you guys leaving? I says, well, we're leaving this afternoon sometime, but I says, I'll give you a wee warning. I says, Abdi's absolutely pissed, right? But then Pelly gets a call that he's on Sports Scene with Billy McNeil, right? And hand to God, Pelly was absolutely bloated, right? And if you watch, I've watched the programme, right? Pelly's sitting there with Billy McNeil and Dougie Donnelly, and Pelly's pissed, and he absolutely carried it right off. Unbelievable. He went to Glasgow at the studios, but we were up there and in the Daily Record. It's just, I got home at 7 o'clock on the Monday morning.
Dave, do you want to come in here?
Well, I've told the story before, Eddie. It was little Ian put up the money. Ian from, what was his second name?
Ian Maitland. Ian Maitland.
Ian Maitland. He put up the money for Abdi to stay at the hotel that
Dunblane
night.
Hydro.
And it was basically a free bar. I remember being upstairs in a room with a posh fireplace, and somebody did something in the fireplace. I'm not sure what it was.
Charlie Barber opened a bottle of beer on the fireplace. And
that's what it was. Opened a bottle on the wood and broke it.
Charlie Barber.
Class.
Unbelievable.
Our weekend will live in the memory. Wow. But the thing was, I think the good thing about our weekend was, like, the Dumbarton manager, he says, we're top of the first division. He says, I don't really need to do my homework on Huntly. He says, if we do what we normally do, we'll win the bother. And actually, we were far better side that day. Actually, John Gardner was fantastic that day. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic that day.
I remember Gardner making one flying save and he held it. And brilliant save.
John Gardner was... People didn't give him respect because John's a happy-go-lucky, jovial guy, but I'll tell you, what a keeper he was. You know?
Well, that night I was going to drive home that night, Eddie, but there's no way I could have driven home. So I was trying to negotiate sleeping on the sofa somewhere when Alan Dunster said, Dave, I've got an offer for you. I said, what's that? He says, you give me a lift up the road in the morning because
You can buy my room.
drop me off in Elgin because I've got to work on Monday morning. I said,
For hee-haw, hee-haw. That's what we used to call Dunsey, hee-haw.
well, I gave him a lift back. And the deal was, I gave him a lift on a Sunday morning and he says, you can come and sleep in my room because the Barris has disappeared. And
Margaret.
He says, Marco will not be back all night. There's no doubt about that. God knows where he is. You can have his bed, and I've got that twin bed in the room. You can sleep in my room, and gives a lift up in the morning. That was the deal, and that's exactly what happened.
So
Marco again.
Marco was a character in that.
Wasn't he just?
Strangest guy I've ever met.
We'll leave it there, Eddie. We'll say no more about that night, and we'll come back to your career very shortly.
No bother, Dave. Welcome.
Good stuff. Dennis, you're at Brora. You're not chairman at Brora.
No.
You're at Brora, and all of a sudden we find you at Clachnacuddin.
Yeah, it was a difficult time, and history is a terrible thing, and you get very blinkered. But I was very busy at work. I was under a lot of stress. You know, my wife had been sadly passed away in a road accident a couple of years beforehand, and you know, maybe I was needing a break, and I decided after Andy McLeod left that it was a time to have a break, and I wished them all the very best, and I stood down, and you know, the new regime, new sponsor came in and drove the club on to levels that they could have only dreamt about, and we've progressed from there. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I thought, this is maybe not the most sensible decision I'd ever made. The problems in my business kind of tied up, and I went to Clach one Saturday and I bumped into Peter Corbett and Davy McDonald actually at Forest. They were playing Forest that day. And Davy said, this is mad, you know, you could out of football. Anyway, Peter says, right, get your backside into Clach and you can join the committee there. And Brian Uckert was the chairman at the time, and I quite enjoyed it, but I think to be involved in Clach, you've got to be born in Inverness and Merkinshire and all the rest of it. Anyway, Brian stood down, and I really was looking around the board. There was nobody prepared to throw their hat in the ring and become chairman. And I said, well, okay, even though I was involved in the Highland League at the time, so right, I'll take it on. But very quickly I discovered that was not a good idea. They didn't like my management style, and for those that know me well, my management style is like no messing, get on with it. And a football club needs money, one way or another, and the more you can raise, the better a team you have. That's a simple fact. And it became evident after a very short period that my management style wasn't the Clach wanted it. And though when I was chairman, we won the League Cup, a really good team. But what people didn't realise, that team was about to be broken up. And fair dues to Polly, it was one of the best League Cup finals there had been for years, because they had a habit of being a bit of damn squib League Cups, as you'll remember as a referee. But I did one at Keith, funnily enough, way back as a linesman. It was an awful game. Anyway, won a League Cup. Polly was in a high, and then after that, the team was beginning to break up. Brindle went away, funny enough, to Brora, and I could see. Anyway, long boring story. I decided to stand down as chairman and just retire from football. And then after, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, I got, or not even that, a couple of weeks, and I got a phone call from Brora. We did consider coming back, and as well, I was going away abroad for whatever reason. I can't remember what it was. And I said, well, let me think about it. And then I said, yeah, why not give it another go? And I decided to come back. But, you know, on the commercial side, where I have a bit more time, because even though I'm getting on in years, you have a business to run as well. It pays the bills. So the job, I'm sort of commercial director along with David Dowling, and the two of us try and raise some money for the club. So, no, there it was. Came full circle. But as I said, you don't win games, you don't win trophies by history. You've got to drive the club on. And I'm even at 66. I'm 66 in 10 days' time, and I still have a lot of passion. And my about to be new wife says at 66 I have drive and enthusiasm to burn. And you know, everything I do at 100 mile an hour.
And you took that drive.
100 mile an hour. So
Yeah. You took that drive, enthusiasm, and passion, and your own leadership style into your role as president of the Highland League, and it was a very proud term of office for you. I know you enjoyed it, Dennis.
Yeah, it's a great honour, and anybody that tells you different tells you it isn't. It is. I can assure you. And it came out of the blue. Really, I got the call from the late great Sandy Stables, and you didn't say no to Sandy. And he said, he phoned me up. I can even tell you the spot in the road because I drew into the side of the road. And he said, Dennis, we would like you to stand as a vice president of the Highland League. I said, that's a big job. He says, well, you know, you direct the times, you take no prisoners. And okay, your mouth can get ahead of your times, and I make no apologies for that. But he says, no, we would like you to become vice president. And I did. And I have no regrets over it. My 3 years, you know, I went in as senior vice president, and then I followed Finlay Noble, who great guy, Finlay. Utmost respect for Finlay, and even Fraserburgh as a football club, exceedingly well run club, and I followed him, and I drafted in my management style. I swept in, I can tell you, and Finlay will tell you better than me. And within 30 seconds, I laid my stall down. I wanted things done, and the guys responded.
Didn't you?
And I make no apologies for that. And we moved on. And now I tried to change it. I tried to get 2 divisions, and because we are in an entertainment business, and I think it will come one day. If you watch the playoffs in England, absolutely brilliant, and it would take away its meaningless games. 17 teams in the Highland League is too many. The league can't cope with that. But get it up to 20 teams, 2 divisions, playoffs in the middle, get entertainment going. And it'll come one day.
Yeah. It wasn't all a bed of roses, though, Dennis. There were some tricky moments during your time in office.
Would you be referring to what, Dave?
Well, you tell me, Dennis. There was a certain, I seem to remember a meeting in Lossiemouth one night I attended outside the meeting, and it was fairly fractious, maybe. Yeah,
anyway, I had to sit out of that meeting because I had a conflict of interest. But it's how you sort things out. You sit down, you get all the reps there. You sit down, it's a democracy. And it works well. 18 teams are represented. So there's no club can say they don't know what's happening. And I think it works very well. And that was proved when we were the first league in the world to declare champions this past period of trouble, and that was unanimous. And if the rest of Scottish football had followed us, there wouldn't have been the mess that there was in the end.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dennis. We'll touch on the rest of the last year's campaign with Brora in the near future. For the moment, it's back to Martin.
Levi, you're in Australia. Next 2 seasons, you juggle football down under and football at Buckie. Who's the manager at Victoria Park at the time?
Brian Scott, late Brian Scott. Billy was his assistant. Obviously, Billy knew my circumstance. Basically, in Australia, I had problems with my visa, but the visa stated I had to leave the country for a certain amount of time and come back in.
Levi, we could have been teammates. Billy and Brian tried to sign me as well.
Why didn't they comment, man?
I couldn't have signing you, that's how I didn't go.
Bastard.
But I've got to speak about that. We're talking about big Scottish Cup games. Obviously, Buckie went had a fantastic run in the Scottish Cup as well. And I'm obviously talking about the game against Hamilton Academicals. You were involved in that? Yeah.
The 2-0 game, yeah. Yeah, they were top of top of the league and we were doing not too bad. But again, Eddie said that previously these teams seem to think they can just turn up and can roll over us or any Highland League team. But in my experience, I've never, if I've played for every team that's obviously a higher level, I've never been beaten by lesser teams or so-called lesser teams. We play the lesser teams and beat them 4, 5, 6-0. But for some reason, when you go to the Highland League, I mean, I think the only difference is between the third division in Scotland and the Highland League's are better pitches, maybe better facilities. Because individually, there is quite a lot of good players in the Highland League. You could easily play in third division, not a problem. And playing on a better pitch would probably raise their game anyway. But these clubs seem to think they can turn up, and do what they want, or maybe their attitude's not right. And any given day, the Highland League teams will give them a right good game more often than not beat them. So when they say it's Highland League shock, it's not much of a shock for the boys that are playing Highland League.
Yep, but you're really saying underestimate the Highland League clubs.
They always do. This is the problem. They always do.
The thing is, Levi, I remember I went doing one of that photo shoots at Hampden. You came for the Scottish Cup.
Yeah.
And you mean not Gibby, Andy Gibson?
Yeah. Gibby
there. Gibby was captain of Clyde and I was captain of Huntly. And Gibby's like, my mates, my team are like rubbing their hands and all, we've got Huntly and all that. And Gibby's like, I'm telling you, he says, we're in for a fucking game. Aye.
Oh, definitely.
Aye, because he says they looked at it as just like a bunch of farmers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't disrespect Dennis.
No, but they do.
No, that comes from the board all the way down.
Yeah.
That comes from the board all the way down. Again, the slack, their attitude. Again, maybe the week in training. Again, they wouldn't bother doing extras, but like so Huntley, the great Huntley teams. Again, Bucky. Again, even Brora. Again, I mean, you're seeing Wick beating against Scottish League. You know what I mean? That just says it all. But that Hamilton game, the 2-0 game, there's a bit of controversy regarding the first goal. Obviously, Stephen Rattley says he scored it, but unfortunately, again, the referee's watch never went off. Again, so the ball didn't cross the line until my left stud on my left foot obviously raked the ball over the line. Then the referee's watch went off, and then they've obviously said, let's run up. So thing was, and his son, it was his bloody picture in the middle. The paper, it's on paper.
And of course,
to the supporters, kind of like that cheeky bastard.
And of course, there was a bit of rapport with the fans when the second goal was scored, if I remember correctly, because Craig Stewart, who we're talking about, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying he was maybe slightly big boned at the time, and he was getting a bit of a hard time from for the Hamilton fans. I think it was "Who Ate All the Pies" chorus, and of course he scored that sweet second goal, and I think he just ran across. He didn't have to say anything. He just sort of went.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing. As Eddie said, look at you and go, they're no players. It's that one when you're younger and you play against a centre half. He's got the white boots on, and you're like that. Really, a centre half of white boots?
Yep. And then of course you played Ross County in the next round.
Yeah, but Bingo came. I think we're rather unlucky there.
Yep.
I don't think we deserve to win it, but a draw would have been nice. And then you take him back to Victoria Park.
And it was the first. I think it was probably the first time that you'd played Ross County since they'd stepped up to the Scottish League. So it was a good opportunity to assess, how far they had moved. But I think they just got it over the line and no more. But the following season, you join arch rivals. You go to the dark side. You leave Bucky.
Yeah.
You join Devonvale. What was the story behind that?
Well, when I was at Bucky, I think Alan and Billy were going to go to Huntly. But nobody knew this. And then obviously they spoke to Huntly and they're trying to recruit players for Huntly. But I think we met up at a hotel, and then I obviously said to Scott, under no circumstances do you sign for Huntley. Just let them speak to you.
Levi, if I was the manager at Huntley at the time,
I can't, to be honest, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. He was getting it done anyway, right? And Brian Scott and Billy were taking her at the end of that season. They were trying to sign me and Scotty up to go to Huntley with them. So what year would that be? That would be
2001.
So if I was a manager then at 2001. Do you know Eddie, 2001? Huntley manager?
2001. Phil Bonnyman.
Aye. Well, there you go. I think that,
Great manager, by the way.
yeah, that's what I say. But apparently he was leaving. I don't think he got sacked, did he? I think he had done a job lined up or something.
He was down south, Bonnyman. He was probably going back down to where, the central belt.
It wasn't common knowledge. This is all done in secrecy. And obviously, I've said to Scotty, you go in first, give me your dad. And then, for God's sake, that's sign then.
All right, so just to confirm, your words were, whatever you do, do not sign for Huntley.
Sign that contract, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've went in, and then, okay, we'll see. Anyway, Scotty's come out like half an hour later, jumping and screaming, gas, okay? And then I'm like, what have you done? He goes, oh, I've signed. I goes, I told you, need to sign a contract, okay? I goes, what did they give you? So he told me the figure, again, sign-on fee and a wage. And I've went in and, okay, I'll go in. So obviously the conversation goes like, what are you looking for? And I'm like, no, you tell me what you're offering. No, you tell us. So eventually they came out and they offered me the terms, and I'm like, really? They offered me a third of what they gave Scotty. They never knew that. Right, so I'm like, really? Okay, go on, just sign it. I'm like, nah, I'm not signing it. Okay? No chance. Or tell me why. I'm like, no, it's just something I don't know what to do. Okay? So anyway, I refused to sign and I've left. And Scotty's like, if you signed it, I goes, no, I've not signed it. Nobody actually knows the reason why. Okay? But anyway, we got the call for Devon Vale, for Greg. There was Eddie up at Vale. Had said, okay, we want to obviously sign Scott. But this time Billy was on board, the Huntley thing had collapsed, it fell through. And then Billy went as Greg's assistant. But it turns out, I heard that Greg didn't really want to sign me. He just wanted Scotty, but obviously Eddie's went, well, it comes as a package. So if we get Scotty, obviously Levi's got to come along. So obviously we went there. And
of course, you win the league title. Must have been a phenomenal season.
Well, I think it's been said before, but we lost the first game against Lossiemouth. Was it Lossiemouth? Sean Scott scored.
Yeah, that would have been Lossie.
Hammered him. Hit the bar, hit the post, missed a pen. Mulvey had 4 one-on-ones, missed them all. Obviously, like 8 minutes ago, Sean Scott scored a header and beat 1-0. And then we obviously went the season undefeated. They won it at Keith. I think it was it 1-0. Mulvey scored the winner. But it was good for the club.
Absolutely. I mean, for the likes of Stuart McPherson, and all the other people associated with the club, and a great reward for Eddie's efforts,
all the boys back there, it's a lifeblood. To be honest, I didn't really enjoy. I didn't want to play Highland League, but circumstances dictated that. For a reason I won't.
Martin, can I butt in a minute?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned Stuart McPherson. That page that he's done and that is phenomenal. At Highland League.
You refer to Highland League legends, Dave. I know you.
Yeah, I tell you, phenomenal page, and I tell you, it's been, I think, for Andy in my era and Levi's era, Abdi, it's so great for cracking on with Abdi. Like,
yep.
You'll speak regularly to Billy Urquhart and boys like,
yep.
It's been, I tell you, the guy, what he's done here is absolutely remarkable.
Just for the benefit of the viewers, Highland League Legends is a private Facebook page. I think
that's a good thing about it, Martin.
The title speaks for itself. It's only ex-players, ex-managers, ex-coaches.
It's brilliant.
ex-referees, ex-administrators, etc. So it takes away the scenario where people could maybe say things out of turn. Everybody's got a mutual respect. I think there's been only once or twice there's been any situations where there's had to be a quiet word.
I think if you're an ex-player, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yep,
absolutely brilliant.
And
he deserves a pat on the back for that. And
absolutely. With the COVID-19 thing as well, we've had the likes of Bobby Wilson, etc. There's been some. In fact, the latest addition today was Charlie Brown, ex-Clydebank and Forest Mechanics. There you go.
And Scotty Brown. Scotty Brown
sorry, I'm saying Charlie Brown. Scotty Brown, I beg your pardon.
For his testimonial dinner on the phone box. I played with Scotty. Aye, I'm only joking, by the way.
Levi, we'll come back to the next towards the end of your career when, and I'll quote, whatever you do, you did sign for Huntly. And Dave will do that next. But for the moment, thank you very much indeed. Dave.
Yeah. Levi, before we leave the Vale winning the league for the first time in their history, two people, Eddie Bruce, very, very effective. Eddie was a very rich man, but you wouldn't know it. He went about in that parka, he took the money at the gate, but he pulled the strings. And he had Greg Carroll as a manager, didn't suffer fools gladly, but he was a top-class manager. Tell us a bit about these two characters before we leave the subject.
Oh, I played with Greg with Gardoness Gunners in 1983 in Champion Street. And we got to the final that year. It was 1983, so I was about 8. And Greg was a goalie.
Right.
But back in those days,
is he decent, Levi?
Really? You look back at the photographs, swear to God, he's one of the smallest players, right? And then back in the day when they played it on a Saturday, but it was before a Premier game. So it just happened we had Celtic, Aberdeen and Celtic that day. So you're playing, it was a full house game. Obviously, you're playing towards the end, but there's like 10 or 12,000 people there, watching us. We got beat 4-1 to Overton Wolves, so I was a bit gutted. Then we got a revenge a year later. We won it 3 years in a row. We got that. Remember the yellow bag, Eddie? Yellow bag with the blue. Can you get one of them unless you won Champions League, man?
Exactly. No, they didn't hear that in my day. Didn't hear that in my day.
Did you?
No.
Was Greg a better manager than he was a keeper then?
I would say so, yeah. Greg's fine, Ken. I got on with him, Ken. I just left him to. He knew what he wanted. The training was intense, Ken. He was demanding.
Yeah.
Ken, I mean, I called him Gaffer, so that must say. So I didn't call him Greg, Ken. Obviously.
End of the day, Levi, proof's in the pudding, is it?
What's it? You get because there's a lot of characters now, Ken. There's a lot of big characters, Ken. But you obviously put the boys together, gelled them. And he did have a bit of money, but. Like you said previously, it's what you do with that money, Ken. You've got to get that blend right. If you didn't get that blend right, if there's one bad egg, then that's it, Ken. You're out, Ken.
Yeah.
No, I did his brother.
Thanks for that, Levi. We'll move on to Eddie's second. I was going to say nearly a decade at Huntly. You were there forever, Eddie. And you, even halfway through your time at Christie Park, you were still loving every minute of it.
I did. It was just a bug, really. It was there all along that it just became a way of life. And see when it stopped, you don't realise what you had to it till it's gone. And
yeah.
And it just about the fact that it was great winning these things and blah blah blah. But it was a Saturday morning. It was a cycle. It was you did this, you did that, building up to the game. And when it's gone, and I think that's for a lot of kids, and you see a lot of kids with talent, you see them going off the rails in the Leavy game, and they didn't. I remember Willie Lawson says to me, he says, when I was in a bit of a bad time. And he was like, Eddie, if you won't be doing with yourself on a Saturday, you won't be kicking fish supper, kicking fish supper papers up the road on a Saturday tea time, or do you won't be playing football? And I think the other, I finished with Locos when I was 43, and to be quite honest, if it hadn't been for like Wally's advice and ticket on board when I was younger, I'd have been finished at 30. But I actually was a better player for 30 onwards because I grew up, and I wish I'd grown up a few years previous. And then I started looking after myself and I started working. I always worked hard, don't get me wrong, but my lifestyle wasn't too good sometimes. And that's why I played because I did it. I wised up when I got older, you know.
Yeah. You're the first to admit, Eddie, when you were younger, you're a wee bit of a loose cannon, and you were no good.
You would go out drinking and but I could still produce on a Saturday. But if I carried on while I was gone, I'd be finished at 31, 32.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honest. I would have been. Yeah. But then I started to do the right things and I ended up playing with guys. Well, Craig McCarty, it was at Cove. His dad was a goalie at Peterhead when I was there. I ended up playing with guys I played with sons, which was a bit embarrassing, like. But
you had some great players at Huntly, Eddie. I'm thinking of the strike partnership front, say Gary White and Luggies, Brian Thompson. I mean, the goals they scored for fun was unbelievable.
Quality. Luggies and White Gary White on the deck for a big lad, and he was brilliant there as well. But see Luggies, I remember we played Cove in a cup final, and I don't know if you was there, Dave, but up at Borough Briggs, and Cove were 2-1 up with like about 30 seconds to go. Luggies free kick, top corner, bang bang, and then extra time. Luggies free kick, top corner. That was the thing about like Luggies and boys like that. They could just pull it out of heart.
Yeah.
But it was a team effort. It's like I remember our best performances in the cup final from we lost in extra time to Ross County, and we were 2-1 up. We had a minute to go, and then me tried a World Cup volley bar, bang, 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 equaliser for Ross County, and we beat in extra time. And that was probably our best performance ever in a cup final. Yeah. But we lost, you know.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that sort of rankles me is I really miss I think a qualifying cup, and I feel like the Scottish Cup's demeaned now. And I don't mean that in a bad way to the juniors and these teams that get in it now, but that qualifying cup, that was probably one of your best nights out of season if you got the semi-finals and that was you qualified for the Scottish Cup. It was a massive thing, and Levi will agree with me. I was nothing better than getting the semi-final of the qualifying cup. You were in the Scottish Cup draw, and I think that qualifying cup's a massive miss.
Yeah. The bonus, it gave the whole club a boost.
Aye, it was Levi, and it did. It felt like winning the Scottish Cup, getting into that last four. Ken?
Yeah. Huntly had it right on the pitch, but they also had it right off the pitch, Eddie. What was the physio's name? Big Mike. Remember Mike, the Englishman, the physio?
Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers was a fantastic guy. Mike actually, he was a physio, but he was like, he manipulated these. It was actually, Mike's actually went to Balmoral when Terry Waite got released from captivity. Remember, he was captured.
Yeah. And
he was held in a small area, and obviously a size of him. And Mike actually treated him at Balmoral Castle because he'd been crouched for, I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years to get Mike was fantastic. He was Pelle's buddy, like, you know. But Mike was a fantastic guy, apart from giving Pelly his credit cards when he was in a hospital so he could get a wee bit. That was probably a big mistake by Mike, but
Big Mike was a personal physio for two famous, or more than two famous guys, but certainly
Frankie
was the guy behind Only Fools and Horses, and he was a physio for Frankie Dettori as well.
That's right. But Mike was a lovely guy.
Character.
Absolutely lovely guy, Mike. And yeah, he was in a story. He was one of these guys, but he just worked with his hands were. I've spoken about with Wally Lawson before, and again, some guys is that I've got a pool. I'm out in a couple of sessions with Mike, and we're back playing, and it was kind of old school stuff, but
yeah. Now I've said, Eddie, the most honest man I've met in the game is Stevie Patterson, and you probably think the same. He's some guy. Give us a couple.
I still keep in contact with Pell, but it's saying about Pell, he is what he is, but for a lot of people don't realise he's got another side to him, right? And I remember, I think it was the first year we won the league, and we are obviously come back to pre-season, did pre-season. Our first game was against Cooter Juniors, and obviously we all think we're pop stars. We've won the league, right? You know what I mean? And we got beat. But Pelly wasn't a ranter or a raver, right? He was never like that. And he, after a game, he just looked at us, put on his jacket and walked out the dressing room. Now, to us, that said it all. You know what I mean? It wasn't a rant. It just was like, he's not happy. And you got a message. That was just Pelly's style of management.
Yeah.
Pelly tried to sign me for Huntley.
Sorry?
Pelly tried to sign me for Huntley. When you were winning.
Sorry, Levi, I can't hear you. Hold on. I'm a bit deaf in one ear.
Pelly tried to sign me one day when you were winning stuff. I can't mind. I think I just left. What year was it? But he phoned us up anyway. He says, "Look, okay, we're doing things at Huntley. Do you fancy it?" And I'm like, "Look, no offence, but I want to try and play as a higher level, as higher level as I could." And he's like,
Maybe Levi, you should have took a step back to go back up.
Well, this is what I'm saying, again, but
I quite believe in that. I don't know about you, but I quite believe in that. Sometimes a lot of guys, there's a few players took a step back to step back up. It gets a.
That's why I went to Bonaccord. You see, that's why I went there, because I thought I'll start again.
I know.
Then obviously I did get to where I wanted to be, but then I got screwed over again while I was in Australia. And after that, I was like, that's me. I've missed the boat. I was 26 at the time. 26. I missed the boat, and then obviously.
But I think there's so many players that. I think in my area in the Highland League, in your area, and you look at quality of full time now, and I think there's so many players have missed the boat.
Yeah, they did. But
you know what I'm saying?
We don't know the circumstances. Sometimes again, it's not just down to football ability or attitude. It's just right place, right time.
It's like do you mind Kevin Allen that played with us?
Yeah.
See, KK, right? Kevin, now, that's a guy that never really gets mentioned in our glory years, right? He was I'll be quite offensive, I'll give him a 9 out of 10 every week, right? But if he got a 10 out of 10, he'd be playing else. But he never really got mentioned. Yeah. But see him, he was absolutely brilliant every week in, week out. And there's a lot of unsung heroes going into it.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a shame, but what do you do? But certainly when I was playing, if I was a manager like Sam and Rose, I'd be like that, right? I'm going to go to the higher league and I'm going to buy all the best players. Okay, one best player on every team. And then, who's it? Easy. The best goalie, whoever, centre mid. There's heaps of players, you could bring together. Plus, you've got that Highland League spirit in the Scottish League club. That's half a battle, isn't it? But I don't
But
understand.
do you not agree with me in why they travel nowadays, Levi? Did they travel together or
That's
they're running home their bird on a Saturday night and
well, like I say, it's cliques. It's cliques. There's this clique mentality. Boys in Edinburgh, they stick with themselves. Okay, boys Dundee. Whereas us Aberdeen boys, we try and be up these pal.
the thing is, a few years ago, Levi, when Dougie Baxter got sacked for Huntley, I stepped in for a couple of weeks with Charlie Duncan. With Huntley just for a temporary. And I'd never seen a dressing room like it because there was guys from up in Inverness and they were that corner, that corner, that corner. And I was like,
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
it's near the world I was in, you know what I mean?
That's the thing, there's no, I don't know. I think maybe money's got to do with it as well. There's quite a lot of money going out with COVID. There's quite a lot of money going about, so they're just like, oh, I'll just go anywhere for the cash.
We never played for the money. I think that was a big thing. It was never a money thing.
Yeah, but you are successful, so that's half a battle. You know what I mean?
It is half a battle, but it was about enjoying the game. I think if I'd been at Huntley and wasn't enjoying it, no matter fit, when you're not enjoying the game, it's not about money, it's about enjoying it.
No, getting your first and foremost enjoyment, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Eddie, you are a Huntley legend. You'll always be a Huntley legend. You left Christie Park, but we'll go to that in the next segment of the show. For a moment, Eddie, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much for having me, Dave. Thank you.
Cheers.
Dennis.
Thanks, Martin.
You're not away yet, Eddie. You're not away.
Right there.
Dennis.
Yep.
I'm going to fast forward a wee bit now to present day and touch on the impact that COVID-19 has had on Highland League clubs and Bror's preparation for the start of the season, the format, how the Highland League is going to be, and Bror's anticipated participation. There you go. In the Betfred Cup. So first and foremost, what's the situation with the Highland League? Can you tell us? Have they got a restart date, or are you working towards a date?
Well, obviously, the powers that be in Parliament have put a stop at the moment. We would like to start in early October from a Highland League point of view. It's well documented that the second Saturdays, or whatever date that is in October, Brora kick off with the Betfred, which is fantastic for us. I just hope with time to prepare. It's 6 weeks isn't a lot pre-season. Our first game's against Hibs, so baptism of fire. It's not. If it had been a Brora, it would have been better. Well, it is what it is. The situation at the moment, which is fantastic, really, all the clubs look as though they're going to survive. Because the beauty of Highland League is we can draw ourselves right back and cut our costs right to the bone. And obviously I speak to a lot of chairmen in the Highland League, and because of personal friends more than anything. And it's been tough. Some clubs have managed better than others. But we've all come through it, but we need to get going. And we need to get going pretty quickly. And we need paying customers. We can't survive without paying customers, because a large part of our income is there. And as a club, we're looking forward to getting going again.
Okay. Is there an indication of a start date for the Highland League, Dennis?
Middle of October would be what the secretary would be going for. But if something drastic happens between now and then, it's back to square one again.
Yep. And what sort of format can you tell us? There's been lots of speculation. Obviously the Scottish League, my clubs, we're only going to be playing 27 fixtures this season.
I don't think it's for me to go into that, because I'm no longer president. That would be the president and the secretary's prerogative. But it'll be a competitive league, I'm sure. And just let's get going.
Yeah,
we still a League Cup from last year to finish. Yeah. As a club, we want to win it. We want to win everything.
I took the liberty last night of doing a wee exercise based on last season. if clubs in the Highland League, hypothetically, if clubs in the Highland League just play each other once, I looked at last season's fixtures and looked at the results when teams did play each other once. It wouldn't have made any change to the winners, but there would have been 5 clubs vying for second place. And had it gone to goal average, it would have been a very, very tight league. So, you know, it's going to be, without a question of doubt, it's going to be an interesting season anyway, but I think it'd be fair to say the Highland League is going to be a pretty competitive league this year.
It would have been a full season now. It would have been just as competitive.
Yeah.
No mistake about it. Teams like Fraserburgh, Formartine, and Inverurie, you know, are improving. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that. A super club, really well led now. You know, and I sat behind Richard Forsyth when they got beating by Clach when he got involved. And I said, give it time, Richard, it'll come. You've just got to work at it. And that magic product money does help. But no, fair play to them. But I would say Fraserburgh must be favourites. I would make Fraserburgh favourites at the moment. And for Martin as well.
I think you're a bit of a rascal, Dennis.
If I was a betting man, which I'm not, and I'm not allowed to bet, I would put my money in Fraserburgh. I'll put all the pressure on Mark and the guys, you know, keep it on.
Just to touch briefly on the testing process. Have you made any provisions? Is there? Have you? You know,
well, you know better than me. For to pay £50 a throw for testing isn't done for Highland League clubs. Whatever criteria that is set out by government, we will adhere to. But it's got to be practical. It's got to be cost effective. Yeah, we just don't have the income to justify testing every player, whatever, once or twice a week, and you know. But let's get going. Yeah. And we'll put all the procedures in place. Yep. We'll have sanitizers, we'll have distance spacing, we'll have everything you want, we'll do it. Because we're all run by unpaid officials. But we'll get off our backsides and we'll do it. And we won't moan, we'll just get it done and move on and let's get playing football again. That's all we want to do. Let's play football.
I think it's fair to say it's coming across loud and clear. Dennis Bridgeford doesn't have a can-do attitude. He has a will-do attitude, gentlemen. I think that's fair to say.
There's no point in sitting looking at it. Just do it well, do it professionally, and drive it on.
Yeah. Now I've got to mention the fact you play Hibs early on, but for me the big one has got to be Cove Rangers. You'll be looking forward to that.
I would love to beat Duncan and his team. You know, and he's, you know, I'm very friendly with them all over all the years. And I remember Cove beating us at Brora. We were winning 1-0 in 90 minutes and they scored 2 late goals. And I was incandescent with rage because I felt the referee should have blown at 90 minutes. And I'm sure he played 10 minutes and allowed them to score. But, you know, a very well-run club, exceedingly able, and I'm delighted to see them progress. I was down at Berwick. A few of us took a train and went down to Berwick when they got promoted, and exceedingly well-deserved. Very well-run club.
And you've done particularly well against Scottish League clubs in recent years. I remember you gave a certain Buckenside a real bit of a scare.
Yeah.
My first season at Peterhead. Yeah.
The guys were speaking, underestimating Highland League clubs. You do that at your peril. And 3 seasons ago, we beat Stranraer. And Stranraer were super. They said, best team won. And all the rest of it. Anyway, it was East Fife, I think, we played next. And I always remember I walked in and I met this committee guy and he said, oh, well done, Stranraer, but sadly that'll be the end of your cup run today. See? And I said, well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But we've had a good journey and, you know, I'd never been at East Fife before and, you know, anyway, we beat them, as you know, 1-0. Well, this same director came to me afterwards and he never even said, well done. He said nothing. He took great difficulty in shaking my hand, and we went into the boardroom afterwards. Well, it was like walking into a lion's den. We didn't stay particularly long, but man, we had a good night on the way home. And And directors of football clubs enjoy winning. I can tell you, we enjoy winning as well, and that was particularly good that night.
Yeah, but I think it's essential that you have to suck it up as well when it
Oh yeah,
doesn't go your way.
Oh yeah, you know.
And every club plays bigger clubs, and every club plays lower clubs, and you've got to, you know, when you're playing a smaller division club or whatever, you know, if Brewer were playing an amateur team in the Scottish Cup or whatever, you know, you're not hiding to nothing because you're expected to do well.
That's right. You know, I remember getting beat by Brewer in the early days by lower teams, and you didn't like it, but you like to be sporting. Okay, you're hurting inside, but you got to be sporting.
Yeah.
But underestimating your opposition is a very, very dangerous game to play.
For sure. For sure.
It's like, Brewer's pitch is absolutely immense.
Sorry, Levi.
Brewer's pitch has always been immense.
Oh yeah, well, it's a biggish pitch, and Sandy the groundsman, who's been there since ever in a day, it's a good pitch, and it's still the original pitch it was laid all those years ago, and he treats it like his own baby. And
I used to love the grass game, that small game like that.
Oh yeah, and if you go into some Scottish League teams, the pitches can be.
I think that's one thing. We were speaking about this the other week, Dave, in respect that the standard of the playing surfaces in the Highland League is unrecognisable from the time that we were officiating. Yes, maybe Nairn County led the way.
Yeah, they protected their pitch to the nth degree, and it definitely pays. But we don't play any football other than first team football on our pitch now. We obviously don't train on it. We don't. The younger players, we allow the North Caledonian League to have a cup final on it once a year, and I think that's right that we do that. But no, not like the old days when it was getting flogged to death.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's a key thing. You've got to look after your assets.
That's right. And modern agriculture has helped as well, because we've got science now. If you look at the big guys in England in the old days, you remember like Derby County and Leeds United, their pitches were like bogs. Well, you don't see that now, and that's all down to agronomy and quality of grass.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Dennis, been fantastic having you. Dave will come back to you. He's going to take you slightly back in time at the beginning of the year, but for now, thanks very much. Over to you, Dave.
Yeah, I know as Dennis mentioned that the League Cup has to come. Of course, they play Bucky Thistle in the semi-final sometime soon, I would imagine. But of course, Rothes are still in the semi-final stage. They play for Martin, so it could maybe be a Brora Rothes final. Now, wouldn't that be wonderful, Dennis?
That would be absolutely fantastic, and I would really look forward to beating you.
Can I put in a request? Could it be played on a Friday night or a Sunday? I think I'd like to go and see that.
You can always miss a Peterhead game and come and see a real game.
Correct. Correct. Levi, you finish your football career with Huntly for 2 seasons, and then finally at Banks of D in the juniors. Yeah, I moved to Huntly. You eventually did reach Huntly.
Yeah, there's a story to that as well. I actually never wanted to leave Derbyville. Basically what happened with a game against the Clach, up at Clachley-Cudden, and Greg took me on the pitch before the game and says, oh, it was raining, a wee bit windy, and he says, oh, it's not your conditions today, so I'm not starting you. So I was like, oh, okay then. So obviously I wasn't the best pleased. I think we got beat 2-1, and then we got hauled in the office on the Monday. Obviously, I wanted to speak to him anyway. But obviously, it was Greg, myself, and the late Eddie. Said they received an offer, a swap deal for Gordon Farmer. It was actually a swap deal for Gordon Farmer and money. But I've obviously said, look, I don't want to go anywhere. But they've got an assistant that I obviously signed for Huntly. By this time, obviously, Billy was the manager with Dave Cormack. So eventually, I think I went down this Wednesday or Thursday, signed for Huntly. It was the first game for Huntly not at the Vale on the following Saturday. So I'd done my groin in training, but I wore those fans for the undershorts, for the heat. The time because obviously we hammered them 6-2. Jerry scored a brace. It's a good day, but no, I didn't really want to leave Downville, but needs must.
That was a girdle, Levi. That was a girdle you done.
Aye. Yeah, but then Ken obviously went to Huntley, and Huntley done really well. Ken, Billy and Mike done a great job there. Funnily enough, my first game for Scotland Schoolboys under 15s was at Christie Park against Northern Ireland, 1-3-2. But anyway, went back to Huntley, and Huntley kind of they got a lot of boys together, and unfortunately won the league again. But
that must have been a wonderful, wonderful occasion, winning your second championship, Levi.
No, it was good for. See, I've got, the thing about me is I've got no medals. I've got no medals left. With no kits left. All my memorabilia I've gave away. Only it's not to put the Highland League or anything else down. It's just that for me, I could put it in my drawer.
He's right.
Yeah, but with regards to the Huntley title, there was a supporter. I think Eddie will know her. She's got multiple sclerosis. A Huntley supporter. She goes. It's a woman. She used to go at all the games. She go to Wick, Brora in a wheelchair. I think it was 2 weeks before we were due to. It was 2 weeks. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks this season ago, and we got to the point where if we won the league, I was doing a warm up. And it got to the point where I'm like, right, if we win the league, I'm going to give a medal to this supporter.
Is this Angie you're talking about?
Yeah. So if we win the league, I'm giving Angie my medal. Okay, regardless. Because, as I said, it's a lifeblood for all the committee guys. They do it for free. They turn up every week. And they give their time, give it nothing. And you'll see certain supporters here every week, every weekend, or every second weekend. Sometimes every week. They will travel. So I thought I'll give something back at the club. Unfortunately, I won the league. And obviously, I didn't want any publicity or anything. I just obviously gave her the medal. So, because I know that medal's on her mantelpiece. She'll cherish it, whereas me, I'll just put it in my drawer. Okay. And I used to do things like that all the time, but obviously nobody knows about it. But
well, guys, can I tell you? Can I butt in just for a second? If you're ever passing by Huntley, pop in past Asda. Angie works on the tills in Asda and Huntley, and I just saw her a couple of weeks ago with her Huntley mask on, etc. I think I put a thing up on Facebook on the Legends page book. She says, "You are at Formartin, I'm needing a Formartin mask, and I'm needing a Peterhead mask, and I didn't have an Inverurie Locos mask."
I care what you're speaking
lassie.
about, Martin.
Lovely lassie.
Ah, that's right.
that epitomises the Highland League for me. Everybody's getting in it together. It is a sort of family atmosphere. There's no mucking about. Don't get me wrong, we are professional. They've obviously they're limited in what they can and can't do. But even when I was up there, any club you went.
The thing is, Levi, my five Highland League winners shirts, I've gave them all out of punters.
Yeah, but they'll appreciate.
And I'd have loved to have kept them, but they mean more to them than they do to me.
Exactly, but you've got memories. Ken, you've got memories, and
aye, I've given all my shirts away, the 5 shirts, and
they
were all signed as well.
What do you mean? I never got my fucking shirts. What do you mean? You can't.
The bottom line is, boys, you're both legends in the game, legends of Highland League football, and you've got the memories. You don't really need the shirts or the medals, do you?
No, you don't. No.
It's nice to look at him, obviously, but as I say, I've got none left. I've given everything away. So
yeah. And you finish your career at Banks of Dee, Levi.
Well, Banks of Dee were actually retired for the 3rd time.
I think your memories are the medals. The medals are great, but had I played, well, I played till I was 43 up here. If I had no medals at the end of it, it wouldn't have mattered. It's about the memories. Do you know what I mean? And it's the friends and all the friends you've made.
Oh, it's
And I
lifelong,
think that's a big thing.
lifelong friends. You know what I mean? It's.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this bunch of D, I retired, so it's like 6 months. I've lost a lot of weight. I think I was getting, I spotted my vitamin, so you know, that's
Yeah.
So I just turned up for a training session. I was like, well, I just play again. But this time my knees, my lower back's sort of goosed anyway. Because I'll give it a go, Ken, and I sort of enjoyed it again.
Yeah.
And then they offered, you want to sign Ken for the year? And I goes, yeah.
Yeah.
Normally in my contract, I would say when I sign for a club, if we win a league, I get a bonus, Ken.
Yeah.
On this occasion, I said, fuck, I wouldn't bother asking, Ken.
You gave a lot. You gave huge pleasure to Angie by giving her that medal. You gave a lot of pleasure to many fans over the years, Levi. But your football career started on a sad note, because you were abused as a youngster in football by a scout, a senior scout who was associated with clubs like Liverpool, Chelsea, and Rangers. But you've come through all that, Levi, and you know it's something that you have talked about, and you're more than happy to talk about, because it may still be happening in the game. Hopefully not, but it happened to a lot of people other than yourself.
Well, that was when I was 13. It was Harry Dunn. He was like the chief scout in Scotland. But it was put this way: if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. It was back in the days when how it came about was it was a trial. It was a trial for a Liverpool youth team up in Edinburgh. But Harry had phoned my mum and says, because obviously I never had a dad, so mum couldn't drive. So normally, if you turn up to a trial, your dad will take you, play the game, and they'll drive you back. But what Harry's went to my mum, Levi can stay with me in Edinburgh again for a few days before the game, then obviously come back again the next day after the game. So, but in those days, didn't question it. Again, so we agreed, and I've obviously went in 2 days before, or 2 or 3 days before, stayed with him just off the Royal Mile, obviously played the game, then again, one thing led to another, and then he done what he done, and then obviously the next day he tried to rape me as well.
Levi, you missed out in your moment to look him in the eye. He died before it went to court.
Yeah, we had to go through all this. It actually I've actually buried it for 29 years. I never told. It wasn't the abuse. It was the mental side of it. So I had to stay in his house for 5 hours during the day because my train was later on in the afternoon. So that's the mental thing, with me. But as I said in a previous interview, how do you tell your mum?
Yeah.
Who do you tell? And how do you explain it again? But it was, I obviously told my mum. My mum's like, again, I didn't want to report it at the time because I didn't want to affect your career, which I understand. Again, she's obviously looking out for me. So I don't hold any grudges towards my mother. Obviously, your mother loves you.
Yeah.
I played for 29 years, and then it sort of all came to a head. Obviously put a strain on my marriage. Again, my business sort of went to pot. And then, because how it came about is that there was a radio. The subject on the radio was about sexual abuse in football. And I listened to my mum's actually listening to it at the time. She's like, what all that crap, kid? I'm going to phone him up. So she phoned him up and goes, you're talking out of crap, blah, blah, blah. Didn't mention me by name, but said, this is how it is, blah, just saying it. And after the show, they've said, look, we want, if it's up to you, we can help the boy Levi. So obviously it came about, BBC. Then we've got the Panorama thing. But I had to do a statement to the police. Basically, the police came in. They basically blamed my mother that can interview my mum. They said, if you'd reported at a time, things would have happened to boys after you and stuff like this. Like, right, really? So I was complaining about the police, they got an apology. But it just brought it all ahead. They're not it's just like, just basically blew my mind, Ken.
Yeah. As it turned out, you were just one of many, many, Levi. But let's hope now that people like you standing up, talking out, it's a cancer that's gone right out of the game with the way things are at the moment. And thanks for facing up and tell us that, Levi.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure anyway. But if you've got a problem, share it.
Now, with Dennis, very quickly. Dennis, last season Brora won the league, but they were done out the chance to play in the playoffs. A huge disappointment for everybody in the Highland League, but most especially at Brora Rangers Football Club.
Yeah, huge disappointment. Sadly, it wasn't Scotland's finest hour. And Martin will probably remember in our refereeing days, in the back of the yellow cards was fair play stamped on it. And that wasn't fair play. Yeah.
But it's given you resolve to go and win it again this year, I'm sure, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm amazed. Sid, Stephen, Sid, everybody knows him, is very positive. The club is very positive. We drive it on. The Highland League will be more difficult to win. It's always difficult to retain a trophy. And there's no saying that would have beat Kelty or Team 42, whoever it might have been. But we would have loved the chance to do it, and it was denied of us by almost a throwaway 30-second discussion at higher levels of Scottish football than we're at. And it was a huge disappointment. And teams like Peterhead and Cove and various other teams were very supportive of us. We had a lot of phone calls of people saying we were badly done by. But we can't turn the clock back. And there's one or two chairmen in the Scottish League who should have a look in the mirror and say, maybe it's not the finest decisions we made.
Here, Dennis. Well, 100% behind you on that. Thanks for that, Dennis, and thanks for joining the show tonight. Back to the boss, Martin.
Well, Dave, it's like a game of ping pong here, because I'm going to fire it straight back to you. Do you have a heat scratcher?
Well, I'll tell you what, the next two heat scratchers are going to be about our hometown, Rothes. The first one is, Rothes won their only league title in 1958-59. Rothes played in a black and white strip up until then, but that season they played some games in a black and white strip and some in another strip, a strip they were gifted. I want to know which Scottish League club gifted Rothes their strip for that season, and what colour were the top colours? Two colours. What colours were the top? What colour was the collar, the shirt, and the sleeves? And who gave them that strip?
Great
the heat scratcher, and you see at the bottom of the screen coming along. If you know the answer to that, put on your answer to @Up the Dooney, and that'll give us the answer. And hopefully one or two will be able to answer that question.
Great stuff. Folks, it's come to that time again. Can I thank our guests, Eddie Copeland, Levi Stevens, and Dennis Bridgeford, for stepping into the breach at late notice. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, guys. We've had some great stories. I'm sure we could have gone on much, much longer than we have. Next week, we will be joined by a former Highland League player who is always good for a yarn. We'll be joined by a former Brocher whose sons have continued the family football connection with the Highland League. And we'll be joined by a pioneering referee who created a first at Christie Park, Huntly in 2003 and created another first at Dens Park, Dundee in 2007. For the moment, we ask you to keep safe, and we'll see you all again next Sunday night. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Good night. Good night, guys.